Cascadia is part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, home to the world's most active volcanoes and quakes. Since 2004, 3 major regions of the Pacific Ring of Fire have been hit by quakes greater than magnitude 8. A 4th region, the Cascadia Subduction Zone, runs more than 600 miles along the northwest coast. The source of all this danger lying underwater of the Pacific Northwest coast is a huge gash in the Earth's crust, a subduction zone. The Earth's crust is made up of huge plates of rock that are constantly in motion. Where 2 of these giant plates meet head to head, one of them can get pushed down under the other. It's here where strain is building up as the Juan de Fuca plate struggles to push beneath the North American plate. When it releases, it will trigger a region-wide earthquake that will shake for up to 5 minutes, followed by a tsunami that will wreak havoc along the entire northwest coast.
We're coming into the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse on a full gallop. We're watching war. We're watching the mega drought that's coming. We're watching the biggest earthquakes preparing to happen, not just in the U.S., but especially in the U.S. And Jesus said there's going to be great earthquakes in diverse places. And I'm going to say this, perverse places are going to get tagged extra hard.
But even top seismologists, as you know, are saying California is like 12 years overdue for a megaquake.
Well, yeah, and actually, Alex, they have a gag order. I mean, there are guys in the USGS that can't even say, hey, we're gagged. But the true nature of it, you have to go to foreign seismic networks and people who are geologists and volcanologists to find out what's really going on. So what I'm talking about is a simultaneous eruption of volcanoes, the mega quakes. The one in Cascadia, I did a movie on that, and it's really good. By the way, those were done 7 years ago.
Since the last super eruption, giant eruption, we've had about 60 to 70 volcano eruptions, like the size of Mount St. Helens.
Scientists recently had predicted that there is only a 22% probability of a 6.7 or larger magnitude quake hitting the San Francisco or Los Angeles areas by 2043. But on the evening of July 5th, 2019, a magnitude 7.1 quake hit near the city of Ridgecrest, California. It was a disturbing reminder that the USA faces a catastrophic major earthquake sometime in the near future. Forget the Yellowstone supervolcano and California earthquakes. Just north of the famous San Andreas Fault lies a tectonic time bomb, the Cascadia Juan de Fuca subduction zone. This vast region threatens violent megathrust earthquakes, catastrophic tsunamis, and contains a potent collection of volcanoes known as the Cascade Range. There is no force on Earth quite like a subduction zone. Slips along these faults, found where plates of dense ocean crust dive beneath continents, cause the world's most destructive earthquakes and tsunamis. A giant megathrust earthquake just like the one that hit Japan in March of 2011, threatens America's Pacific Northwest. A huge area from Northern California all the way to Canada is at risk, including major cities like Seattle and Portland.
Look, we're coming into the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. We're watching all of the Luciferian, the global elite, the child-sacrificing, human flesh-eating cannibal cabal making their final play for the extinction of humanity.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Diamond Report Live. It's your host, Doug Diamond. It is good to be back. It is, 9:05 p.m. on 8/16/26. And yeah, it's good to be back. I was out last week because I was traveling, but we'll try and make up for it a little bit tonight. We've got lots and lots to talk about. Hopefully we'll be able to get through everything. I thought I'd start with the earthquake stuff just because it seems like there are definitely earthquakes in diverse places, as mentioned there in that short video, Steve Quayle and others. But of course that is biblical as well. So let's watch a little bit of this clip too. I will probably jump off the screen here just because there's a guy in the corner right underneath my picture right now, and I want you to be able to hear what he's saying. I came across this video that was uploaded yesterday, and I think it's important. This fits right in with what we're talking about. So let me hit play on this, and I'll follow up afterwards. It's an 8-minute video, so we probably won't watch the whole thing, but I do want to play at least a little bit of it so you have some idea as to what's going on here. And from what I can tell, he's telling the truth here.
This is big breaking news. Top officials are now warning of an 8.8 magnitude earthquake that could hit, and also a 9.2 magnitude earthquake that could hit as well and cause massive tsunami waves. We are also seeing warnings for a 7.8 to hit majorly populated areas. So let's get into all the details here. You guys can see this is actually what happened yesterday. A 7.7 magnitude earthquake hit Indonesia and caused destruction. You can see these buildings here are partially collapsed and falling apart, and there were sadly dozens of people reportedly that passed away from this 7.7. There was also a 6.9 magnitude aftershock that hit hundreds of miles west in Indonesia as well, that hit this morning. So the region is still very seismically active, and there was a tsunami as well, not a very large one, but there was a recession of the tides and a tsunami wave did hit. That brings us to our 3 warnings that are being issued here. All right, we have a warning for Alaska for a 9.2 magnitude earthquake, just went out August 13th. We have a warning for LA County for a 7.8 magnitude earthquake, just went out July 29th. And we also have a warning for a 8.8 magnitude earthquake that just went out for Peru. All right, so Peru is doing a nationwide emergency drill right now because they are worried that they could be the next one to be hit with this mega quake. Check this out. It says, as required by the National Geophysical Institute, due to the seismic silence for so many years, an earthquake of magnitude 8.8 is expected, which would be a very strong event. Therefore, the entities in accordance with the disaster risk management law in our country are involved in carrying out these activities to assess preparedness and raise public awareness. All right, so this is what's happening right now in Lima, Peru. They're having massive drills for this earthquake. All right, you guys can see here's some more footage coming out of Peru. It says the national multi-day hazard drill in 2026 was carried out. In Lima, the population, authorities, and institutions participated by putting preparation and response actions into place in the regions according to the hazards of each locality, the protocols, and the response capacity of the participating entities. It strengthens preparation and coordination in the face of emergencies and disasters. So that's what has been going on yesterday, Friday, August 14th in Peru. They did this nationwide drill preparing for an 8.8, and they're saying that is what is expected. Also on August 13th, this was a report released by the Washington Department of Natural Resources. It says new statewide tsunami modeling released for a magnitude 9.2 Alaska Aleutian subduction zone earthquake. It says here, if a large enough earthquake occurred off the coast of Alaska, it would generate a significant tsunami that could affect the entire Washington coast. To better understand such a tsunami and help Washingtonians prepare for this hazard, we have released a new publication that models the tsunami inundation from a magnitude 9.2 earthquake. All right, you guys can see here, this is the tsunami wave amplitude, and you can see that it would be hammering the West Coast, especially Washington, Oregon, Northern California, British Columbia would all get hit extremely hard, and other parts of Alaska would be hit as well. All right, this is what the Washington Department of Emergency Management and Department of Natural Resources are preparing for right now, and these are the tsunami waves that they simulated for Washington as well. All right, we're seeing 15 feet in Watch. We're seeing 24 feet in Westport, 19 feet in Long Beach, okay? Even 5-foot tsunami waves in the port of Tacoma and 8-foot in Port Townsend. So these waves would make their way all the way through the Strait of Juan de Fuca and into these more populated regions that are typically protected from anything like this. So that's what they're preparing for. Also, Los Angeles County on July 29th, Catherine Barger, the supervisor for the County of Los Angeles, calls for countywide earthquake readiness review and preparedness planning. And this is what she wrote. This is a quote from her. "The scale of risk this represents is significant. A 2008 U.S. Geological Survey scenario modeled a hypothetical magnitude 7.8 rupture on the southern San Andreas and found it would produce violent shaking simultaneously across Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, San Bernardino, Ventura, and Imperial counties with an estimated 1,800 deaths." So preparations are being made inside the United States as well for these massive earthquakes that could hit and will most likely hit at some point. Nobody knows exactly when they will hit, but there will potentially be signs like earthquake swarms, volcanic activity, and other earthquakes around the world like we've been seeing. When we have these big ones like this, it causes potential realignments and readjustments. It puts pressure on the plate somewhere else. It releases pressure in one area and then moves that pressure to another spot. So we could potentially see earthquake activity along the west coast, like Alaska or California, or even the Cascadia subduction zone off the coast of Washington. Or we could see a big one hit the New Madrid seismic zone as well, which is located near St. Louis, Missouri, the epicenter. So there are these possibilities for the U.S., and you should be getting prepared. You should be getting ready. So make sure you're stocked up. Make sure you have a plan. Make sure you have a couple weeks of food, bare minimum. Make sure you have a generator. Make sure you have alternative forms of communication, like satellite communication if you can. And be prepared to rough it for a few days, a few weeks potentially, if authorities are not able to get to you. That was a major issue in Colombia, is that people are inaccessible. They're still working to get to certain people because the infrastructure and roads have been destroyed. You guys can see this is a video from Indonesia yesterday, and you can see this building just falling apart here.
So yeah, I wanted to double check and see if Dutch Sense had anything at all on his channel about what that guy was talking about as far as potential, new quakes coming. And, Dutch does a really good job in the earthquake forecasting world. He's probably the best one out there that I know of that is talking about earthquakes before they happen. And I'm not really seeing anything on here as of this moment. Yesterday, he had new large 7.0 strikes Indonesia, which is what that guy was talking about there near the end of that last video. But I don't see any other warnings on here quite yet. He usually is really good about putting those up. Now, I did take it a step further and checked into what he was talking about as far as Lima, Peru goes, which I have been there, by the way. Many years ago, 2017, I was in Lima briefly, and then and other parts of Peru on a trip with Steve Quayle that you saw in the beginning video, and Tim Alberino as well, as we explored the megalithic structures of Peru. So I am somewhat familiar with the area. Peru held its second national multi-hazard drill on Friday, August 14th, simulating a catastrophic 8.8 magnitude megaquake and tsunami off the coast of Lima. Led by national authorities, the massive exercise tested public evacuation readiness, mobile alerts, and emergency response protocols amid recent regional seismic activity. And there's a little bit more detail here on the AI overview on Google, but I wanted to see if there were any actual links to articles that came up in that search. And this is one of them. Peru's megaquake threat, why an 8.8 earthquake is feared, which, an article that we'll link to in the Substack post. If you guys want to be on that list, you can, feel free to do a search on your own as well if you want to. Peru prepares for emergency drills as other South American countries struck by major quakes in recent months. And yeah, it does seem to be a thing. I mean, it is certainly a lot of seismic activity that they are dealing with down there. And I did find this as well. Let's share this tab. Colombia declares emergency after 7.4 magnitude earthquake kills 132. That's the current number as of this posting. This is on Daily Crow. Urgent searches for survivors in Colombia after strongest quake of the century brings down buildings in western provinces. Average 15 to 18 annually between 7.0 and 7.9. In 2026, we are behind schedule thus far. As of August 11th, so this was posted 5 days ago, there have been 5 confirmed earthquakes worldwide with a magnitude of 7.4 or higher. The confirmed events include, and they're listed here, although not in chronological order, I guess biggest to smallest, magnitude 7.8 in the Philippines in June, and then 7.5 in Venezuela. I think there were 2 in Venezuela in June as well. In April, there were a couple of quakes that were in the 7.4 range, Indonesia and Japan, and then this one in Colombia. Powerful earthquake in Indonesia kills dozens. National Disaster Management Agency of Indonesia said Saturday that at least 47 people were dead following a 7.7 quake that struck off the country's coast on Saturday morning. The earthquake, whose epicenter, the USGS, placed just north of the island of Flores, flattened buildings, according to videos circulating online, and produced small tsunamis. Indonesian officials expected the death toll to rise because the earthquake had disrupted communications and made it difficult to assess the casualty toll from the remote areas. More than 200 aftershocks also occurred in the hours after the initial quake. So this is on the SIFT on WNG.org. So again, more, I would guess, most likely there is more coming. So just something to keep an eye out for. So, but yeah, the Earth is certainly heating up. We're seeing that right now, at least because of the late summer heat that we're all experiencing in the U.S. But it seems to be hot pretty much everywhere. Something that Mr. Dane talks about often, and you certainly would expect earthquakes as part of that. Thermal expansion, it's called, as things warm up. Buildings crumble after powerful 7.7 strikes Indonesia. Tsunami warning issued, which 7.7 isn't going to have much of a tsunami with it, but they have to issue the warnings, obviously. So a few more details there, and then here is this earthquake as it's happening, the building getting rocked here. So you can hear some people retching there in the background too. I don't know what's going on there. Some of the aftermath. It says first visuals from Indonesia after 7.7 strikes. Okay. Wow. just flattened. Anyway, that's a Gateway Pundit article. So anyway, it's enough on that, I suppose. But we certainly need to keep our ears open for sure, don't we? And then wanted to give a brief update on what is now a tropical storm, Lala, out in Hawaii, which is, again, more heat. The planet is heating. You're going to have more things like tropical storms and hurricanes and so forth as the Earth is trying to cool itself. And granted, they can be enhanced chemically as well, as we all know, with geoengineering programs. Tropical storm Lala updates. So this is as of earlier today, 11 a.m. It's probably Hawaii time earlier today. Lala's center is passing south of Kauai with maximum sustained winds of 65 miles per hour. So you can see the track here. It's going to basically just scrape the big island, it appears, and will miss most of the rest of the islands, from what I can tell. So there is a bit of a update here on what's going on there, because I was wondering if it was going to get hammered. Seems like they've had their share of natural disasters in the last few years with all the fires and floods and everything else. But Tropical Storm Lala doesn't appear to be a massive issue at this point, from what I can tell. It says people should use extreme caution in damaged areas as numerous safety hazards exist, including dangerous debris, contamination risks, and electrical hazards. People on Oahu and Kauai should remain careful and in safe shelter until tropical storm effects pass these islands. Do not travel unnecessarily, as roads will be hazardous and visibility will be limited. Anyway, that's from the Department of Defense in Hawaii. So that's all on the tropical storm. Now let's sort of pivot and go into the news that I've got pulled up for tonight, the actual war news and so on and so forth. So let's take a look at some of this stuff. We've got Hal's website, HalTurnerRadioshow.com. Thought this one was interesting. He posted this earlier today. You can't really read this too much probably on your screen, but I will try and make the picture bigger here so you can see some of these scrawlings on these airplane wings. Quiet revolt over U.S. military Iran conflict. U.S. servicemen in the Persian Gulf have scribbled messages in the dust of an aircraft flap per an image from the field. So they're saying it's just in the dust. They're not actually painting in there. The messages include, and we're going to look at those. I think Hal's off on one or two of them here, but it says U.S. servicemen adds what people in the media don't understand when they compare past conflicts to this one is that this operation has no morale behind it. That makes a world of difference to service members deployed to undesirable locations indefinitely. And that does seem to be what we're dealing with here. So let's share this tab, and I can probably zoom in a little bit so you can maybe see it a little better. We'll see. But yeah, they've written on the plane here, be a good goy and do what Israel tells you. That's the front and center one here. And there lots of hangman and tic-tac-toe. Peace deal number 64 incoming. All this is for the Holy Land. Yeah, I love Israel. I am a good goy, is what this one says. Operation Epstein Fury, right here in the middle. And this one, which Hal didn't quite have right, but it says BB's cucks. BB's cucks, which I guess that means they are. Anyway, and then this one is pretty funny as well. I love, or I heart, flock cameras. So, those military guys. Too funny. Anyway, I thought that was kind of crazy. Somebody took that picture and shared it somewhere. So, yep, that one's on Hal's website, HalTurnerRadioshow.com. And then got just a few more from his site as well that are sort of follow-ups to all of that. Official U.S.-Iran ceasefire, MOU, as I call it, the MOUSE, ends Monday, August 17th. That would be tomorrow. Unusual things have taken place in Washington, D.C. today. Now, this is actually posted from Hal on the 15th, so yesterday. This morning, so Saturday morning, President Trump unexpectedly went to Camp David for a few hours. No one is saying why the president went, who he may have been meeting with while there, or what was discussed. It was widely known that Trump doesn't like Camp David or its less than exquisite accommodations. Yeah, there's not enough gold everywhere. So why would he make an unannounced, unscheduled trip there on a Saturday? Next, Secretary Rubio made an unusual move, departing for CENTCOM headquarters in Florida. No one is saying why Rubio may be meeting, who he may be meeting with, or what is being discussed. These unexpected and unusual activities may, House says just a guess, coincide with the reality that the official U.S.-Iran ceasefire MOU officially expires tomorrow. Will aggressive military hostilities resume on Monday? Is all hell about to break loose? None of us know yet. What we already know is that things are quiet, very quiet, maybe even a little too quiet, House says. So who knows? Who knows? But we do know one thing. Bibi and Israel want no part of any kind of ceasefire or peace deal of any kind. We're going to get into that a little bit more tonight, and I've got some really interesting prophetic type of news about Israel tonight that you may not have seen anywhere. You may have heard bits and pieces of it, but I found an interesting video that I cobbled together from several different interviews that we're going to take a look at tonight, so stay tuned for that. On August 15th, so yesterday, 1971, the U.S. went off the gold standard. Who was that, Nixon? On August 15th, 1971, the U.S. went off the gold standard and started up the cash money printers. Price of gold in 1971 was $35. Price of gold today, $4,376. Gold is up 125x since then. Wow. The Federal Reserve has completely and utterly failed to properly guard the value of our currency and properly controlled inflation. The United States ended the gold standard in two main steps. President Franklin D. Roosevelt stopped domestic gold use in 1933 to fight the Great Depression. President Nixon ended international gold convertibility in 1971, which moved the country to a fiat money system. First step, 1933, domestic end. The problem, the Great Depression caused a panic. People rushed to trade paper money for gold, draining bank supplies. The action, President Roosevelt declared a banking holiday. He signed an order making it illegal for citizens to hoard gold coins, bullion, or certificates. The result, people had to exchange their gold for paper money. This stopped the public from trading cash for gold inside the U.S. That was in 1933. 1971, second step here, international end. The problem, foreign nations held many U.S. dollars. They wanted to trade those dollars for U.S. gold. America's gold supply got too low to cover all their requests. The action, President Nixon announced the Nixon shock on August 15th, 1971. He stopped the direct convertibility of U.S. dollars into gold for foreign governments. The result, the global Bretton Woods system ended. The U.S. dollar became a pure fiat currency backed by nothing but the government's word, not physical gold. And that is where we stand now. So, nice little synopsis, I think, from Hal on that. But yeah, that anniversary just passed yesterday. So anyway, and then this one I haven't seen anywhere else. U.S. conducts large-scale nuclear attack exercises. So again, take this for what it's worth. I don't know. This is something Hal's reporting, but I do find it really interesting. On August 12th, 4 days ago, the U.S. Army conducted large-scale exercises simulating a nuclear war. Lovely. Specifically, the U.S. Armed Forces conducted exercises simulating a nuclear strike. The operation involved 3 E-4B aircraft, E-4B aircraft, designed to operate in emergency and crisis situations. The exercise scenario included a simulation of a nuclear attack on U.S. air bases and a subsequent retaliatory nuclear strike by the United States. The exercises considered scenarios such as strikes on remote U.S. bases, a preemptive nuclear strike by the United States, that's written in red here, and the conduct of a low-intensity nuclear war. Oh, it's one of those safe and effective nuclear wars. That's what I'm going to start calling it. It's the safe and effective nuclear war. It won't really hurt you. During the exercises, hundreds of strategic messages related to nuclear war and the use of conventional weapons were transmitted. Similar activity was last observed on January 21st. Approximately 40 days later, Iran was attacked. Wow. Interesting. So they're simulating large-scale nuclear attacks and running exercises based on that. They probably know something that we don't know. Safe to say. Although I do think if a nuke goes off the United States, I don't know that it would be an air base. I think it would be a civilian area, and I think it would probably be Israel that does it. Or the U.S. All right, let's look at needtoknow.news. FDA approves Moderna's first ever mRNA flu shot despite 75.3% adverse reaction rate. It's okay. It's safe and effective too, just like the nuclear war will be. FDA approves Moderna's first ever mRNA flu shot despite a 75.3% adverse reaction rate. That means you take this shot, there's a over 75% chance you're going to have some sort of adverse reaction. Personally, I would call it a 100% chance, but officially it's only 75. The FDA has approved Moderna's mFlusiva for adults 50 and older, making it the first seasonal mRNA influenza injection authorized in the U.S. 75.3% of senior mRNA vaccine recipients experienced at least one adverse reaction within 7 days, compared with 49.3% of those receiving Fluzone high dose, which I guess is a different flu shot. Even more concerning, severe systemic reactions occurred in 6.7% of mRNA recipients versus 1.7% with the traditional high-dose flu vaccine, nearly 4 times as frequently. 6.7% chance that you're going to have a systemic reaction. That does not sound good. Anyway, yeah. You're really playing Russian roulette here if you're choosing to take these things. Post from Nicholas Holscher, the captured FDA, the Fraud and Death Administration, as I like to call them, just approved Moderna's mRNA flu injection despite it causing 294% more severe systemic reactions than the already hazardous traditional flu shot. mRNA flu shot recipients suffered a 75.3% adverse reaction rate, and there was no placebo group in the trial. There never is. That's the whole little dirty secret here that the vaccine industry does not want you to know. They have never compared it to a true placebo group where you have non-vax people. If they compare it to another group, it's just another group of people who had a different version of some other vaccine, or maybe a different version of that vaccine. So that's their control group. Anyway, yeah, and it talks about being a dark day for Maha. The FDA has approved Moderna's mFlusiva for adults 50 and older. So if you're 50 and older, the FDA, U.S. government, want you dead. Of course, technically, I think they want pretty much everybody dead. There's some version of we want you to die soon playing out in every age group, as far as I know. That's on needtoknow.news, and then this one is as well. Along those lines, Fauci privately warned of miscarriage risk linked to COVID shot while publicly claiming there are no issues. He knew, and we all knew that he knew. Why didn't they just arrest the little guy when they had him in front of Congress, in front of the, sitting in front of the senators? I still maintain that. I wish they would have. Dr. Fauci privately raised concerns that the COVID-19 vaccine could theoretically be linked to miscarriages in expectant mothers, despite having publicly insisted that there were no red flags for pregnant women. In other words, Fauci lied. Hard to believe. Due to censorship, most Americans are still ignorant to the harms that the COVID shots can cause. Dr. Mary Bowden, MD, said that 300,000 pregnant women in America took a COVID shot this year. I don't think the word's gotten out to them. She reported that 7 million American children have received the latest COVID shot. 7 million. According to AI, as of 2026, approximately 75% of children ages 5 and older in the U.S. have received at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, which means their DNA is forever altered because of the mRNA. So, that is not what, I don't think, not what God would want. Your God-given DNA altered. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think there's some scripture about that type of thing, isn't there? All right. Anyway, that was a need-to-know.news article. And then, I know it's not exactly news that Fauci was lying, but anyway, just wanted to point that out and just mention the whole deal with the pregnant women here that he is harming even more, apparently. Black man who filmed himself assaulting multiple white women has a lengthy, violent rap sheet. Yep, they just keep letting him out time after time after time. The Daquan Schaefer Hunt, 32, was arrested this week, again, after filming himself punching multiple white women in the face for no apparent reason on the streets of Charlotte, North Carolina. Punching multiple white women in the face for no apparent reason. Yeah, he was filming himself doing this, by the way. He was live streaming it. Hunt's previous crimes include numerous assault charges, convictions for shooting into a building or a vehicle with a person inside, and threatening a man with a knife, as well as being accused of pepper spraying a person on a bus. So he's an overall really nice guy. A commentator on X wrote that Hunt was arrested in December last year for assault with a deadly weapon and 3 other charges. On March 18th this year, he took a plea deal from Judge Joseph Setzer Jr., guilty to 2 charges. 2 were dismissed. The sentence was just 89 days in prison. He walked out that same day. Yeah, because it was just time served. Soft on crime Democrat policies continue putting Americans at risk. Yeah, well, it's somewhat Democrat policies, but it is a plan to let these people who are so evil out there on the street. They want to make sure that they stay there. As long as their skin is the right color, I should add that caveat. Here's one of the women that he attacked. Multiple videos, same man. I don't feel like I should show this just because you never know with a live stream if they're going to cancel it, but some of you guys have probably seen that. And the balloon she was holding when she was punched in the face and knocked out says, "Get back on your feet again," or "Get back on your feet soon." So she was obviously taking that balloon somewhere to show someone in probably a injury situation a little bit of love, and she gets pounded into the ground. And I don't know what's happened to her. I'm not sure if she's going to be okay or not. Anyway, there are several things embedded here as far as videos if you want to watch any of these, but I would caution you to be careful because they are very violent. So yeah, these people need to be thrown under the prison. They need to be, maybe they should, extradite him to some other country. Even though he's not technically from another country, I don't think. Spokane fires, man charged with arson, killed his father and was questioned about 2 other blazes last year. So they always have somebody that they find, the almost like the lone gunman in a way. They're finding the lone, fire starter. Aaron Farinacci, 37, was arrested on suspicion of first-degree arson in connection with the Old Trails fire. I think we mentioned that last time on the show. The biggest of the 3 blazes that have destroyed at least 700 buildings and forced 65,000 people from their homes. Farinacci served about a decade in prison for manslaughter after killing his own father in Arizona in 2010, following an argument about cleaning the dishes. So he's clearly very sane. 10 years was all he got. Farinacci used his father's gun to kill him, and then he turned the gun on himself, but he survived his wounds. He was questioned about 2 other fires last year. Critics on social media have proposed that Spokane Spokane was targeted for fires to clear the land for a large data center. But the mainstream media denies it. Why wouldn't they? Yeah, there was a lot of talk about that. It just happens to be in an area where they want to build a large data center, and they got this guy to burn down that whole area. I don't see anything else about the data center right offhand. However, there's obviously references here to it. But it looks exactly like the Palisades fire. It looks exactly like the Lahaina fire. They all look the same, and that is because they get somebody. This is my opinion anyway. They get someone to start something somewhere. So there is a fire started by hand, and yet there just happens to be smart meters on everyone's houses and buildings. And with the proper signal sent to all houses and buildings in a given area where a fire is getting ready to start, it's pretty easy to melt down entire neighborhoods, which is why I've cautioned for years, and as I'm sure many of you guys do as well, about having any sort of smart meter on your house, because it's basically like having a lit match on the side of your house. They can set it off anytime they want. All they have to do is hit the right buttons, and it gets overheated, and boom, you got a fire, and it looks a lot like that. Now, there may be other things at play. Who knows? Obviously, there's the incendiary dust, as Mr. Dane talks about. There's geoengineering fallout, metal nanoparticles on absolutely everything, which makes things burn even more intensely, even hotter. Obviously, that's part of the equation as well. We know they're doing forest fires for geoengineering as well. So there's a lot of different things at play. It's not any one thing, unfortunately. It's a bunch of different things at play. But the data center equation in this, I think, is certainly worth the look, and hard to ignore it, isn't it? So we'll see what happens. Maybe they're going to build a smart city or a data center. Who knows? Maybe it's all the same. It says, Turner, the Technate builds its fab. This is on technocracy.news. Elon Musk speaks the language of technocracy. Terawatts, functional sequences, capacity, allocation, etc. Terafab is not an AI data center. It's a 100 million square foot manufacturing facility. I didn't say 100,000. I said 100 million square foot manufacturing facility to build components for the next generation of AI data centers. So it's like the mother of all data centers, because it's going to be building other data centers. Given his propensity for huge, will he announce plans for 100 million square foot AI data centers, or a series of them? Or how about a 200 million square foot data center? Yeah, and I did find another graphic on this. I don't see that on this particular article, but there's a lot here. If you guys want to have a look at this. And all the references are here as well. Terafab. SpaceX's official announcement. So let me go back to this tab here, and I will find it. It's on this page. I saw it just a little bit ago. Here it is. So here's Terafab. We were just talking about Terafab, and they're comparing it to some other well-known areas, well-known buildings. Says SpaceX says that Terafab is to be built in Texas with initial investment of $16.8 billion. And Elon shared this image on X. This is what it looks like. Terafab. So 100 million square feet. So here it is. This is what it looks like. That's what I was looking for on that last article that we were just looking at. Look how tiny the Pentagon is compared to this massive thing. 100 million plus square feet. The Pentagon is 6.6 million square feet. You've got Giga Texas, and then you've got, that's 10 million square feet. Apple Park is 2.8 million square feet. The Mall of America, where's that? I think that's in Minnesota. 5.6 million square feet. So Terafab is 100 million square feet. Or it will be. Wow. Anyway, that is what Musk is up to. And I know there's people out there saying, "Oh, he's doing, he's doing a lot of positive things." And I won't say that he hasn't done a couple positive things here and there, but man, that is not good. That is not good. I don't want any 100 million square foot buildings around where I live. I don't know about you guys. Anyway, I just wanted to point that out and show you guys that comparison, because that picture is not on this particular article, unfortunately. So you don't really get a good idea of the scope and scale of that thing. It's crazy. The Posse Comitatus presidency, Trump's standing army on American streets. Yeah, unfortunately, I think Trump's standing army on American streets, if there are such things, anytime soon, will probably be the IDF. Being how we're going to be merging our military with theirs. President Trump mused about a third term and posted an AI image of himself as a general during a Truth Social spree on Thursday. So he was Jesus in a post a couple months ago, and now he's Trump. He's president again in 2028 and a general. Got all the decorations that mean nothing. U.S. military is supposed to be under the constitutional authority of Congress to declare war and provide funding. With the president being the commander-in-chief, the Posse Comitatus Act prohibits the deployment of military forces on U.S. soil, but Trump is increasingly using the military to condition citizens to accept martial law. In short, the military is not to be used to enforce the president's will. Yeah. The military was used in Operation Warp Speed to deliver vaccines to every corner of America during the COVID era. Indeed it was. I remember. CENTCOM is used to enforce the Board of Peace and their private investments in Gaza. CENTCOM is also prosecuting the war against Iran. CENTCOM means Central Command. The war in Iran was unilaterally declared by the president, not by Congress. Troops are still deployed in Washington, D.C. until 2029. If you didn't know that. The military is building a drone port on top of the presidential ballroom at the White House, turning it into a military outpost. And then Trump pictures himself on Truth Social as a military general. Yeah, and that's what happens when you have completely lost it, which there's been a lot of talk about that. Anyway, there's quite a bit here on this article. Again, it's not quite behind the paywall quite yet on technocracy.news. So have a look at that one if you guys are interested, but bookmark it quickly before it goes behind the paywall. Although I do think that you can listen to the full article even after that happens. So it is there. No Fourth Amendment in American airports. This is the third and final one for technocracy.news that I've got tonight. It isn't just about airports, but about all ports of entry at the border and any checkpoints set by CBP, which is Customs and Border Patrol. I talked about this last time, 2 weeks ago. Within 100 miles of a border, if you refuse to hand over your phone, you could be charged on the spot. Your digital life isn't in your suitcase, but in your phone. It's the holy grail of snooping. This story starts here. The privacy-first graphene OS, which can be installed on Google phones, has an auto-destruct feature that is triggered by entering a secret password. Wow. This citizen gave the CPB agent that code, which the agent himself entered, and the phone was turned into a lifeless paperweight. That is not a bad idea. So this particular article is one of those ones behind the paywall, but you can listen to it here. I don't know if it's a full article or not because I can't see that. But I did mention the basic story here, not the part about the guy giving the phone and his code to the officer, but the fact that they will be able to access your phone and all of the data on it, at least for a window of time, for just a few minutes before they have to hand it back to you, supposedly. And then, of course, there are the other Israeli-based software systems that they can hook your phone into and basically download everything and grab it all and look at it later, which you have to know they are doing that as well. Anyway, that is on technocracy.news. Diversity German style. Berlin pool advertised black-only swimming hours. How about that? Black-only swimming hours at a pool in Berlin. Wow. Taxpayer-funded swimming pool in Berlin, originally pitched as a multicultural, open-to-all space, almost immediately announced segregated black-only swim sessions. The temporary Volksbühne, which is German, I guess, People's Pool is what that means, project set up outside the famed Volksbühne Theater in Berlin has caused backlash just days after opening on August 7th. The summer swimming facility was initially pitched as a welcoming space that would be open to everyone who longs to cool off in the hotter Berlin summer. The organizers specifically contrasted their people's pool with others in Germany, which had begun to require ID for entry following numerous instances of pool behavior, including sexual assaults and physical attacks from people believed to be migrants. They're just believed to be migrants. There's no obvious way to tell otherwise. They're just believed to be migrants. Supporters of the project claim that people needed a place to go where anyone could swim without proving who they are first. Yeah, and I would throw in, too, they probably are able to vote while they're there, too. I mean, that would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it? Anyway, so they have the people's pool. You don't need an ID to go. It says, however, when the Berlin pool said it would be free of charge, it would not require an ID, an announcement on its website this week caused a stir that supposedly that this multicultural pool would be restricted on Friday exclusively to black communities, quote unquote. Imagine if a pool had a white-only day. What would happen? What do you think would happen? Don't you think it would be wall-to-wall news everywhere across the entire planet? Pretty much, at least through the Western countries. We ask that you respect this collective self-identification and the spaces associated with it, the announcement said. Oh, okay. So you could be a white person and just go there and identify as a black person, perhaps. That might work. Of course, you'd probably get beat up, but and then arrested, because you can't do that. But I don't think that's going to go over real well. White people are generally not welcome. Syrian asylum seekers arrested for filming and molesting underage girls at a swimming pool in Germany. Lovely. So anyway, that's what you got in store for you if you're a fan of swimming in Germany. Total craziness. Yeah, and more total craziness, except in France this time. Macron under fire for jet skiing on holiday while France burns. Well, at least he's not playing the fiddle. That might be a little worse if he was playing the fiddle while France burns. French president photographed on the Riviera as country experiences the worst forest fires in its history. Yeah, but he's staying cool and he's on a jet ski and having fun. That's all that matters. Who knows what his wife/husband's doing. Emmanuel Macron has been accused of megalomania for showing off on a jet ski while wildfires continue to ravage France. The 48-year-old French president was criticized by opposition politicians on Friday after photos from his holiday appeared on the front page of celebrity magazines in Paris. France is experiencing some of the worst forest fires in its history amid near constant heat waves. The communist senator Pierre Ouzoulis told Europe 1, which I guess is a magazine, that Mr. Macron's behavior was indecent. Gosh, you have a communist saying that what he was doing was indecent. Personally, I would have preferred to see him in a fire truck helping firefighters put out the blaze. That is where he belonged, says the communist senator from France. So even the communists know when this guy's screwing up. This other person, Alexis Corbière from the leftist party, mocked the president's muscles, his sunglasses, and the very polluting watercraft being used at the presidential retreat on the Riviera. Yeah, it looks fake. Looks like a fake background back there. The photos were published on the day a judge blocked Macron's push to ban under 15-year-olds from social media. The legal ruling said set the ban could limit free speech. I think it definitely would. So here he is doing a hoverfoil, showing off his balancing skills. I remember Zuckerberg was doing one of those. He was on one of those things a few years ago. There were also images of Macron on a hoverfoil and laughing as he skippered the powerful boat, the power boat, full of his security guards. Another photo showed Brigitte Macron, 73, Mr. Macron's wife, I'll put that in quotes, in shorts, a t-shirt, and baseball cap and sunglasses. Well, at least we didn't have to see that, because that would not be good. But here's the forest fires. Yeah, he's frequently criticized for being arrogant and out of touch with ordinary French people. But it doesn't matter. He is a globalist and can stay in power. And even with 1% of the vote, guaranteed he will be put right back in place. That's how it works. This is on Fox News. Fauci refuses Senate appearance after invoking Fifth Amendment more than 100 times in the COVID probe. Senator Ron Johnson sought Fauci's testimony as part of a separate probe into the federal COVID-19 response. So they're still arguing about all the COVID stuff that went wrong. Fauci was held in contempt by a Senate panel as states launch probes. It says Fauci on Friday declined a request to voluntarily appear before a second Senate panel, opening another front in Republicans' investigations into the former public health officials' handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. Attorney for Fauci rejected the request from Senator Johnson, chairman of the panel, arguing that compelling Fauci to testify again would, quote, impermissibly harass or degrade Dr. Fauci for political purposes. Yeah, and we wouldn't want that, because he's not done enough himself to do that, that's for sure. So he said, nope, I'm not coming to the, not coming to your party, Ron Johnson. Just forget it. So I don't know if they'll force him to or what. I'm not sure what the next step is here. But this is even, more recent than the last Senate hearing. They voted to hold him in contempt, but I feel like they should just turn it over to the DOJ and see what happens. Because I don't know that there's any history of that ever being ignored. Usually if that happens, people get arrested. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Probably nothing. It'll be the one time, like the first time in history that's ever happened that Fauci gets referred to the DOJ and nothing happens. Probably. Yeah, this is on Slay News. Google announces plans to build AI data center over protected wetlands. That's what they do. Google's massive expansion into AI infrastructure could come at the expense of federally protected wetlands in Indiana, with the developer working for the tech giant seeking approval to pave over part of a sensitive site outside Fort Wayne. That is, probably an hour and a half from where I grew up in Indiana. Local outlet WANE reported that Hatchworks LLC, a data center developer working on Google's sprawling Project Zodiac, has applied to acquire 4.26 acres of forested wetland as part of the third phase of the $2 billion hyperscale data center development. Approximately 2.13 acres of wetland could ultimately be filled and developed to make way for 3 new buildings, wastewater infrastructure, electrical systems, and other components of the massive campus. Where are all of the crazy environmentalist wacko people? Where are they in all of this? Do they not exist anymore? Have they all become the the anti-oil people now? Is that where they are? I don't know. Because I remember, it seemed like not too long ago, not that many years ago, doesn't seem like to me, when you had environmentalists that would be up in arms about this kind of stuff, and yet these data centers are being proposed everywhere, and I don't hear anybody really talking too much about that, unless it's the people in that exact area who live there, who don't want their wetlands to be destroyed. But you don't really hear much about that anymore. So yeah, kind of a interesting situation, and a little hypocritical, isn't it? The acreage may sound relatively small compared with the overall scale of a hyperscale data center, but wetlands perform functions that extend well beyond the boundaries of the property itself. They provide habitat for plants and wildlife, absorb stormwater, limit erosion, and act as natural buffers against flooding. Yet, Hatchworks says its design cannot be completed without disturbing the protected land. Of course they do. And plus, that would disturb our ability to make billions of dollars. That's what it's really disturbing. Daily Mail article, Country Hicks, quote unquote, were offered life-changing $26 million for their farmland. Now they're being hailed as heroes after telling the buyer to kick rocks and don't come back after change of heart. So maybe they were considering it for a while. I don't know. Kick rocks. How about that? If that's the worst you could say to somebody, go kick rocks and don't come back. Sounds like something straight out of the 50s. A Kentucky mother and daughter are being hailed as local heroes after refusing more than $26 million from developers seeking to buy their 1,200-acre family farm for a massive data center project. I'd actually heard about this before. It's been a while now. It says Ida Huddleston, 82, and her daughter Delcia Bear, 54, own neighboring properties in Mason County, Kentucky, where developers linked to a large data center project have been attempting to assemble land. The mother-daughter duo, who previously spoke to the Daily Mail about their stand, said they were offered a combined $26.48 million for farms their family had cultivated for nearly 200 years. What would you guys do if you got offered $26 million? The company offered Bayer $48,000 per acre for 463 acres, and Huddleston $60,000 per acre for 71 acres. Initially, they agreed to the deal, but backed out after learning the land would be used for a 2.2 gigawatt hyperscale data center. Kick rocks and don't come back, Bayer told the representative of the Wall Street, told the representative that the Wall Street Journal then reported. So this is her, I guess. The two self-described God-fearing country hicks are at the center of a heated national debate they never thought would reach their front porch. I never thought I'd be in a battle with a data center, Bayer told the Wall Street Journal. I thought I was out about as far into the boondocks as you could get. So this is the daughter. Here's the mother. Here's her home. But the part I wanted to read was near the end here. It will warm your heart. So there's some aerial shots, I guess. Further interviews, further pictures. Here's the best part. All right, ready for this one? What I believe in is something called Jesus Christ. And he said to occupy wherever you're standing, you occupy until he returns. She told the Wall Street Journal. I can't believe the Daily Mail even published that line, but they did. If I step off this piece of property and it becomes something for an AI hub, then I have failed to occupy and I can be held accountable for that on the judgment hour, she added. Bayer believes artificial intelligence will be the destruction of the human race. Maybe she's not so dumb, huh? And says she and her mother will continue to fight the potential data center project. Even if I had $26 million, I'd want to sit right here in my chair and have my coffee and eat my food where I always do. Huddleston, the older lady, told the Wall Street Journal. Good for them. Good for them. The only problem is when these corporations put their eyes on something, they're going to try and get it no matter what. So either, eminent domain or something. There will be some dirty tricks involved. You can pretty much guarantee it. Unfortunately. So they didn't take the money, so that means now the corporation is going to play hardball. Because they're going to try and steal this land. Guaranteed. So hopefully these people, these two ladies will be able to stay strong and fight whatever's coming, because you can bet they're going to try and bankrupt them and get them off their property or something. Send out some IDF soldiers. I don't know what they'll do. Anyway, you can see the proposed data center area here. I guess this is maybe part of their land. Huddleston and Bear. This is their land here. Maybe probably where their house is, I guess. It is in extreme northeastern Kentucky, up near Ohio. So, wow. That is some crazy stuff. I don't know. I mean, I don't think most people would turn down that kind of money, but yeah, I mean, I get it. She is exactly right. And more on data centers. We have a natural news article. Data centers versus communities. The fight for water, land, and power intensifies. There's been a viral video going around. I don't think it's embedded on this site, on this article, but Doug somebody had been at a local, city council meeting or board meeting of some sort, and stood up and said, I build AI data centers. I've been doing it for years, and you don't need a gallon of water for these things. And if they say they need any kind of water, they're lying. And asked that he be put on the committees to help make sure that things go through as they should be. And he said they just ignore him. It's because the people that are getting their palms greased by the big corporations that want to put these things in don't want him to be involved, because it could mean less money for them. Personally, I think that's what's going on there. Virginia released a long-delayed groundwater study finding declines likely in critical eastern aquifer due to population growth and industrial use, urging stricter regulations. The report found it would be unlikely for new data centers to secure reliable groundwater permits under current conditions. Virginia senators voted to end a project, $1.6 billion annual tax break for data centers amid growing national pushback. A 67-mile, 500,000-volt power line in Northern Virginia faces residents' threats as surveyors map the route. Texas data centers projected to consume 400 million gallons of water annually by 2030, straining drought-affected regions. So if they don't need a gallon of water and they're going to use all this water, that means they're just using these data centers as an excuse to take potable water from the people so that no one has any water, and then they die. That's what it looks like to me. But what do I know? Anyway, this is an article, just, I guess, a general article about how communities are fighting it. But it starts in Virginia. Virginia, the world's largest data center hub, has released a long-delayed scientific study examining the state's eastern region groundwater supply and the resource-intensive industry's potential impact, finding that declines are likely in a critical aquifer and urging stricter regulations. The report, produced by environmental scientists and released July 24th after more than 6 months of refusal by state officials, concluded that regulators should have a greater authority to reject industrial water withdrawal permits and force entities to examine alternative water sources. The release comes amid escalating tensions across multiple states, where artificial intelligence infrastructure increasingly competes with human communities for land, water, and electricity, resources essential for survival. Anyway, that is a natural news article. Pictures. Thousands of illegal migrants set up makeshift garbage huts on the beach of Spanish Ceuta weeks after invasion. Well, I thought they all moved back out. I thought they all went back home to Morocco. Remember, we reported that 2 weeks ago, if you saw the show then. And I said at the time, I don't think this is true, because they were basically saying as soon as they got there, they turned around and left. And they didn't travel all that way just to leave right away, is what I'm saying. Now, some probably did go back, but certainly not the many tens of thousands that they were saying right away that went back. More than 2 weeks after, tens of thousands of illegal migrants stormed the border of the Spanish enclave of Ceuta. Thousands of migrants remain in the city, resulting in the area's once pristine beach being converted into a full-on encampment with dozens of makeshift huts being constructed out of garbage and prompting warnings of potential disease outbreaks due to the unsanitary conditions. You don't suppose. Late last month, upwards of 80,000 illegal aliens. Now, we were told it was like 40,000 right at first, wasn't it? Maybe it was 60, but now it's 80,000 illegal aliens rushed across the border from Morocco into the Spanish-controlled North African territory of Ceuta in the space of just 24 hours, nearly equaling the entire population of the city, which normally stands at around 87,000 people. So they doubled in a matter of hours. While the socialist government in Madrid and the globalist EU Commission in Brussels were quick to claim success in expelling most migrants back across the border, that's where we kind of left it last week, amid outcry from fellow EU member states fearful of the migrant surge landing on their doorstep, they wouldn't want that, thousands have remained without being expelled over 2 weeks since the invasion. Yeah, and keep in mind, the socialist government of Spain, they do want the migrant invasion to happen. It's just that they don't want it so obvious and for it to all happen at once. So that's part of it. According to the local El Pueblo de Ceuta, estimates currently place the number of illegals in the city between 5,000 and 8,000. This would include at least about 2,000 unaccompanied migrant minors who stayed in the exclave in a bid to grant asylum in Spain, though they would likely be given the ability to get EU visas for their families. Anyways, yeah, it's more craziness going on in Ceuta. Meanwhile, there are also concerns of a potential second wave of illegals, with Morocco arresting 294 people who attempted to cross the border on Saturday, and a further 61 who incited people to try to reach the Spanish territory on social media. In addition to the health risks, the mass influx of mostly young men, military-age men, across the Moroccan border has come with physical danger to residents as well, with at least one migrant being arrested over connections into terrorism so far. It says there have also been multiple illegals being arrested on suspicion of rape, including against a 10-year-old girl. Yeah, they were saying that they normally have like 3 reports of rape a year, and they've already had 5 or 10 or something in the last few days. So, I mean, it's bound to happen, obviously. So along those lines, I did find this. They said here that there are also concerns of a potential second wave, right? We'll get a load of this. I came across this on X and didn't really find that many people talking about it. But, and I don't know, I can't really verify that this is what it's showing, what it says it is. But if it is, get ready. It's about to get way worse in Ceuta. 100,000 African men filmed crossing North African desert under military escort to enter Europe soon. And they will be headed that direction through Ceuta. EU leaders welcoming them with open arms. So this is a video that's got the RT logo on it. Who knows if that's really what it is? And it's pretty short, so you have to watch closely. I'll play it again. That is a complete and total invasion, is it not? If that's really what this is, it looks like they're organized like an army marching towards Europe. So again, who knows if it's real, but that's what they're putting, that's what they're saying. I would look for this particular article on RT and never did find it. So I don't know if this could be trusted or not, but I do find it very interesting. 100,000 African men filmed crossing North African desert under military escort to Europe. They really hate the white Europeans, don't they? They want to make sure they are gotten rid of. Need more migrant fun. Invaders turn Ceuta Beach into a slum with shacks made with straw and cardboard are holding massive fight clubs by the water. Hey, we talk about fight clubs a lot on this show, except it's not this kind of fight club. We always talk about the kind Paul Pelosi takes part in, the Gay Hammer Fight Club. So I don't think Paul Pelosi is there in Ceuta, but he might really like it. And he certainly has enough money to vacation there. Perhaps this is him. I don't know. Beaches are cluttered with garbage and human waste, leading to fears of a cholera outbreak. So there is just all kinds of fun happening in Ceuta. So obviously they need another 100,000 to march in as soon as possible. There we go. Isn't this what every small city or small town, little enclave in Europe would want? I guess that's the Fight Club. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. That's what's happening in Ceuta. It looks to me like there's a lot more than just a few thousand left. Just based on that camera shot. All right, let's keep going here. Well, here's one more. Second Ceuta border invasion attempt underway as military-age migrants mass near Spanish enclave. So now this is, I think this is a different group of people from what I can tell. It's not necessarily, that long 100,000, group of men headed that way. But it says second Ceuta border invasion attempt by sub-Saharan African illegals. Public health disaster unfolds. Hybrid warfare fears mount as migrant flows weaponized. Italy's Schengen suspension with Spain will remain until security risks disappear. Weaponized migrant flows. Spain's Ceuta border under attack again. Multiple open source reports indicate that thousands of illegal aliens are massing near Spain's Ceuta border. This is on Zero Hedge. Raising the prospect of coordinated attempts to breach the enclave for the second time. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it came out the first time that it was pretty much the U.S. and Israel that were making sure this was happening because they love Spain so much for being so supportive of everything that Israel is taking part in, all the genociding that they are doing right now. Anyway, thousands of Moroccan migrants again attempt to enter Spain's Ceuta enclave just 2 weeks after the previous mass influx. Look at all of them. It looks like something out of Mordor in The Lord of the Rings. Wow. Anyway, yep, not looking good. But keep in mind, they want to do this in the U.S. too, even though technically it's the U.S. and Israel taking part in this. The people that run our country also want this to be our fate as well, which is why I'm spending time on this. It's because this is a plan, and it's planned for all white Christian nations. You can say what you want about the United States. Most of the rest of the world considers the U.S. a white Christian nation. Obviously, we know that that's not exactly true, but, they want to get rid of us. White people bad. Singularity Hub. So for anyone out there who is looking for the old fountain of youth, perhaps it's been found. Designer enzyme strips decades of rust from aging human tissue. Sugar damage in the body was thought to be irreversible, but the new enzyme made 75-year-old tissue look chemically like a 30-year-old's. Wow. Which reminds me of something my mom says. Anytime it's raining outside, you've heard the old saying about, don't melt, it's raining, because, you're made of sugar and sugar melts in the water. Well, no, she says, instead of that she would melt, she says, I would rust. She says she would rust. So that's what this kind of reminds me of, rusting from aging human tissue. The scent of fresh bread straight from the oven is intoxicating, as sugars and proteins react under heat. They create compounds that give golden brown crusts their rich aroma. Called advanced glycation end products, AGEs. Just happens to be ages. These molecules also form inside of us. Our bodies are essentially ovens running at around 98 degrees Fahrenheit, and AGEs slowly build up over decades. They stiffen bouncy elastic tissues and trigger lasting inflammation. One of the hallmarks of aging, AGEs, again, advanced glycation end products, drive a range of age-related problems, increasing the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and eye and kidney troubles. In theory, clearing them out could turn back the clock, but previous attempts have failed, leading some scientists to suspect that the damage is irreversible. The damage is irreversible. Once AGEs form, they stay or maybe not. A team at Revel Pharmaceuticals, always has to be a pharmaceutical company, in San Francisco, and colleagues took a new approach. They designed a synthetic version of an enzyme found inside microbes that targeted the most abundant type of AGE in several human tissues. In tissue from a 75-year-old donor, the enzyme reduced AGE levels, to those seen in a 30-year-old, potentially giving the cells and their surrounding scaffold a chance to repair and rebuild. This, by the way, is what I've heard to a lot lesser degree, but to some degree with repairing mitochondria in your cells, is what methylene blue can do. So if you guys are into methylene blue or know anything about it, apparently that is what methylene blue does as well, to some degree. It says this work establishes that damage to aging proteins previously thought to be irreversible can be repaired, wrote the team. Study author and Revel CEO Aaron Cravens, what a name, added in a press release, more work is needed, but these results alter the starting assumption for how we think about this fundamental aspect of the aging process. Rusting away. AGEs are often nicknamed the body's rust. They coat structural proteins and, like rust eating away at a car, gradually damage them. Scientists discovered AGEs in the 1980s and have sought ways to scrub them away ever since. Anyway, there's some more information here. No mention of methylene blue, but I've heard that to some degree that is what that does as well. I don't know. You guys can investigate that on your own. I am not a medical doctor and don't pretend to be. But yeah, I've had decent success using methylene blue on my own. Although I can't say it makes me look younger. I think it does help you feel better in a way. So, fixing the mitochondrial issues that happen over time is not a bad thing. As I said earlier when we were talking about Sutta, we're here to destroy the white race. Democrat Socialist of America hero declares war on the West. That's exactly what they want to do. Destroy the white race. They just come right out and say it, don't they? Marxist streamer Hassan Piker has emerged as an increasingly visible, if unofficial, spokesman for the Democrat Socialists of America. Rapidly expanding political action network, he campaigned for Michigan Democrat Senate candidate Abdul El-Sayed and Wisconsin gubernatorial candidate Francesca Hong, while cultivating those close ties with socialist New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani. Yeah, which this El-Sayed guy did win his race, and Francesca Hong, last I heard, lost, but there was a lot of stuff in question as far as the results of the election. I think it was within 1% or 0.5% or something, so I'm sure they'll find a way to overturn it in her favor. But last I heard, though, she had lost that particular race. Gubernatorial candidate Francesca Hong, so in Wisconsin. From an electoral risk perspective, Piker is becoming a liability for Democrats. His far-left anti-American rhetoric provides Republicans with what we call a gift last week. Even Hillary Clinton warned on Friday that the GOP's anti-communist messaging is very effective. Yeah. Democrat Party's failure to formally denounce Hassan Piker and distance itself from his agenda. He basically says he wants all white people to be KILL'd, essentially. Hassan Piker calls on his followers to KILL capitalists. Yeah, KILL them, kill those MFers, and murder those MFers in the streets. He's literally saying this. And guess what? He gets to have a really large account and following on X. I can't even get, any 5-minute video clip from this show to be viewed more than, 4, 5, 10 times. So look at this. Of course, I'm not out there trying to get people to KILL each other either. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot to be said about what he's doing. There's been some, right here, there's been some video clips of him not necessarily yelling at his dog back here in the back, but there are some video clips of the dog yelping and laying back down again quickly, and after he said some harsh words to the dog, and people think that he has a shock collar on the dog and a button under his desk that he presses to shock the dog back into place, into submission. Poor dog. So, yeah, just a lovely human being, isn't he? And if you've never heard of him, you're not missing anything. But I thought it was interesting that Zero Hedge was pointing this guy out. But, yeah, he is he makes Hillary Clinton look like a nice person. Let's just put it that way. Even Hillary wasn't out there saying that kind of stuff. Evil world we live in. Breaking news that proves we are living in the end times. That's what this show's all about. And again, more craziness with people getting beat up. North Carolina DoorDash delivery and mom gets smashed bloody with a baseball bat for honking at a green light and was stalked and cut off before nearly killed. North Carolina mother of 3 is recovering from emergency brain surgery after a man followed her, blocked her in, and beat her in the head with a wooden bat, all because she tapped her horn at a green light. So he hunted her down and basically tried to kill her. Kristen Phillips, 34, was working a late-night DoorDash and Uber Eats shift in Onslow County early Saturday morning to help support her kids. She was behind a black Range Rover that sat motionless at a green light. She honked, and that was it. According to Phillips, the driver then trailed her to her next delivery near Jacksonville. When she returned to her car, the man approached with a wooden bat and struck her repeatedly in the head and face until she collapsed. Man, be careful out there. Just assume everybody out there is trying to do you harm at this point, it seems like to me. She suffered multiple skull fractures, brain bleeds, and shattered cheekbone. The fluid leaking from her ear. Despite the catastrophic injuries and heavy blood loss, the working mother somehow got herself into her vehicle and drove to Onslow Memorial Hospital. She was later transferred into Wilmington Trauma Center for brain surgery and titanium plates in her skull. Phillips told police and posted on Facebook that the attacker was a light-skinned black male, approximately 6 feet tall, in his late 30s to 40s. Authorities, however, have released only a description of the black Range Rover. They've declined to publicly share the suspect's race, which means he's exactly as she described. She saw the guy. But the point is, he has the right skin color, so therefore it's okay when he does it. Somewhere here it said, I don't know where it was, that said he thought he killed her, so he stopped. He thought she was dead, so he stopped. So in other words, he was trying to kill her, and yet he stopped because he thought she was already gone. What a world we live in. Be careful out there, folks. Just honking at somebody now can get you killed. Got a couple of futurism articles. So it's another tech one, AI one. Better hope you don't need an ambulance in New Orleans because the city's 911 operators are now AI. Your house isn't just on fire, it's collapsing in real time. This is where we are. They're setting up AI to run 911 in Nolens. If you thought AI customer service bots were bad, just wait until you need to convince a large language model that, yes, you have been involved in a car accident, actually. According to new reporting by Shreveport Times, officials at the Orleans Parish Communications District, the emergency dispatch agency for the city of New Orleans, are now integrating AI answering agents into its workflow. So they really don't want to help very much, do they? I guess they found that out during Katrina. New tool is called AI Emergency Call Triage. AI Emergency Call Triage, offered by a company called Carbine. Its function is essentially to triage incoming calls to dispatchers, bumping high-priority emergency calls to humans and automatically handling repeat calls to ongoing incidents, the Times explains. Starting in April, New Orleans experimented with implementing the AI for 311 calls, a phone line meant to connect callers to local government information and non-emergency services. Well, I mean, I could kind of see that. If you wanted to put people out of work, yeah, that would probably be all right. But it says now that AI will be sorting incoming emergency calls is a significant escalation for the city's dispatch agency. New Orleans will now join other major cities, including Seattle and Atlanta, which have also implemented AI into their emergency dispatch services in recent weeks. Though officials claim the new tech will help cut through the hundreds of calls inundating human dispatchers, it nonetheless represents an added layer of friction between callers in distress and trained dispatchers who can connect them with help. Again, proving that they don't actually care about people. They only care about the people that they're paying to answer the phone. And they want to make sure they're paying as few as possible to do that. It's also worth noting that AI voice chat remains highly flawed even when powered by frontier AI models, with plenty of opportunities for errors both in how they process information and how they dish it out. A February study by the media software company NewsGuard found that in voice mode, AI bots like ChatGPT and Gemini produce false claims with realistic audio up to 50% of the time. So they're only right half the time. Emergency calls to 911, needless to say, are often extremely chaotic. Meanwhile, AI voice systems are also persistently vulnerable to outside attacks, with cybersecurity researchers successfully manipulating voice model behavior with an average success rate of between 79 and 96%. So it can be hacked, and there's pretty much no chance that it would keep working, but they're going to use it anyway. Wow. What all this means for situations where connecting with a human dispatcher could mean the difference between life and death remains to be seen, but if other AI voice experiments are any indication, it won't be good. Man. They really hate us, don't they? That is a Futurism article, and then we've got one more from that site. Yeah, this is one more data center one. But it's certainly worth looking at. The number of regular people being arrested for protesting data centers is astounding. People are rising up everywhere. Got some protesters here. It takes a lot to get your typical white bread American riled up enough that they're willing to go to jail. Getting arrested is a massive pain, bringing court dates, fines, and a record that can shadow your job and housing prospects for the rest of your life. For most folks, just the threat of jail time is enough to keep them on their best behavior. Yet in 2026, data centers have become one of the rare issues pushing more and more of Americans to risk it anyway. That's good. So far in the U.S., Futurism has counted at least 37 arrests stemming from protests related to data centers this year. There were an additional 12 cases where police intervened to prevent protesters or speakers from confronting civic leaders, though in reality that number is likely much higher, as these cases aren't as likely to make the news. Unlike in other moments of political unrest in recent memory, it's hard to pigeonhole these anti-data center activists demographically. They can range from land-owning farmers to physics teachers, Zoomers to boomers, rural townspeople to suburban parents. Despite their differences, the arrestees all have one thing in common. They each felt the actions of democratically elected officials are failing to reflect the wishes of their constituents instead of deferring to massive tech corporations. That would be because they're paid off. That's why. I can't believe there hasn't been any major whistleblowing yet on that. Take the case of 42-year-old Pablo Payan, a maintenance manager from Indiana. During a public meeting in May held to discuss plans to erect a massive Amazon data center in the city of Hobart, Payan refused to identify himself for the record before speaking, resulting in an attempted removal by police. As officers were escorting him out, Payan said that he asked why he was being removed, which prompted officers to place him under arrest for criminal trespass and disorderly conduct. Man. They're considering people like this as, if you protest in any way, they're considering them terrorists. So if you don't let the data centers come in and let them do whatever they want and build whatever they want, you are officially a terrorist. In my opinion, I was kicked out to prove a point that the law is on their side, and if people continue to try and express themselves and speak, they will also be intimidated or arrested by law enforcement, Payan told Fox 32 after the fact. So I think it was a flex of power. Far from the anti-tech extremism that law enforcement agencies in the Trump administration have warned about, those demonstrations are overwhelmingly peaceful, escalating into physical confrontations only when police lay hands on a person to remove them. Many of the charges come when an anti-data center activist break petty clerical rules, like going slightly over the allotted time for a public comment. And they're going to call you a terrorist if you disagree, which is what they like to do. All right, so I've got a few things here that I wanted to look at. It's going to take just a minute to get through all this, but it's very important. People are wondering what is going on here with Israel and why Trump and Israel and the Trump administration and the U.S. and Israel are all so inextricably connected. We're going to look at that. Jerusalem's Al-Aqsa Mosque facing imminent threat of Israeli takeover, says Jordan. Country convening emergency meeting of Arab and Islamic foreign ministers around Al-Aqsa Mosque and Dome of the Rock. This is an article from August 4th, which some of this is stuff we talked about previously, as far as the Israelis who marched on Al-Aqsa Mosque right here. I think it was 4,000, right? Almost 5,000. That Ben Gvir and company entered the mosque compound in Jerusalem on July 23rd. So we talked about that back when it happened. Jordan is convening an emergency meeting of foreign ministers from the Arab and Islamic world over what it says is an imminent threat of an Israeli takeover of the most important Muslim site in Jerusalem, with the potential to trigger a religious conflict. I think that's already been triggered, don't you? The meeting on Wednesday in the Jordanian warning follow an escalating pattern of government-backed incursions by Jewish religious extremists on the compound around Al-Aqsa Mosque and Dome of the Rock, in violation of a status quo treaty overseen by Jordan's Hashemite monarchy, by which only Muslims can pray at the site. That's true. That's been going on for a long time. On July 23rd, more than 2,000 Israelis from the religious right, mostly settlers led by the National Security Minister Ben Gvir, stormed the area. I think it was like 4,000 some. Stormed the area known to Jews as the Temple Mount. They prayed and performed rituals all around the compound, in what Jordanian officials said was the worst violation in modern history. Amman had also been alarmed at the recent recruitment drive for religious Jews for a special Temple Mount police unit and is braced for more direct challenges to traditional Jordanian custodianship by extremist Israeli leaders in the major Jewish holidays in September. This year, those holidays will come amid an intense election campaign in which the far-right coalition of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will be fighting for survival. And don't you know, he will get reelected yet again. This is a constant threat, a dangerous threat that we're trying to counter in every tool that we have possible, Jordan's foreign minister said. So anyway, all that to say, yes, they are very worried that the Israelis will take it from them, which, of course, they will. That is, I think, just a pretty much a slam dunk at this point. Israel has already refused to renew a 2021 water agreement under which it shared 100 million cubic meters a year to its parched neighbor, one of the most water-scarce countries in the world. It reverted to the 50 million cubic meters originally agreed in the 1994 treaty, which falls far short of the needs of a much bigger population than the Jordan of 32 years ago. Wow. So they're going to cut off the water supply to Jordan. That sounds like something Israel would gleefully do, doesn't it? Yeah, and they've come out and said, maybe we need to hit it with a missile and blame it on Iran so that we can build our temple. They've literally said that type of thing. So look for something to happen. I personally think it could be that, could be an earthquake. I don't know. They're going to do something. Israel will. They want their temple. Now, came across this article, and we're going to tie all this together, so just be patient here. Marlon Maples says Trump carries the Zohar over his heart for protection. Donald Trump's ex-wife says the president carries an Aramaic copy of the Zohar close to his heart while sharing details of his spiritual side and her own connection to Judaism, Israel, and Shabbat. This is Maples here, I guess. Maples, former wife of Donald Trump, says the president carries a copy of the Zohar with him, keeping it close to his heart for protection and healing, quote unquote. In an interview with Channel 12 News, Maples offered a rare glimpse into what she describes as Trump's spiritual side while discussing her own longstanding connection to Kabbalah, Judaism, and Israel. Maples said Trump carries a book of Pinchas, P-I-N-C-H-A-S, Pinchas, the Zohar in Aramaic, and keeps it over his heart inside his clothing for protection and healing. So if there's any question, in my mind anyway, if there's any question he has converted to Judaism, this solidifies that, yes, in fact, he did. She added that he has a very big heart. He would not be in this position if it weren't for his desire to help others. Maples was married to Trump at the time when the idea of him running for president was beginning to take shape. She said over the years, she developed a deep spiritual connection to Kabbalah, which led her to visit Israel numerous times. And of course, Kabbalah is what? Jewish mysticism. Very evil. As a Christian, she said she's calling herself a Christian. As a Christian, she said she wanted to understand Israel and was blessed to experience everything from visiting the graves of righteous people and spending extended periods in Safed to water skiing on the Sea of Galilee, because that's what Jesus did, I guess. Maybe she thinks so anyway. Maple says she also has maintained a kosher lifestyle for more than 20 years and is a student of ancient mystic at the Kabbalah Center for many years. So how she is a Christian and also a Kabbalist, I have no idea. Some people say Kabbalist, some people say Kabbalist. I don't know, whichever one you want to choose. I don't really see anything else on this particular article that's that important. So let's go to this one. So here's what I was going to read through. Marla Maple says Trump carries the Zohar over his heart for protection. Donald Trump's ex-wife says the president carries an Aramaic copy of the Zohar close to his heart while sharing details of his spiritual side and her own connection to Judaism, Israel, and Shabbat. In 2019, the White House leaks reports that Donald Trump had converted to Judaism in early 2017, about 2 years earlier, with this also reported on February 24th, 2019, by Israel Today News. So here is the first paragraph here. As a Jew, Donald Trump's next move was to join the Gnostic dualist satanic sect, Chabad, which seeks to genocide all Christians in a process called Tikkun Olam, Tikun Olam, O-L-A-M, which means to repair the world through genocide, with Tikkun Olam then leading to a state called Shalom, meaning all Christians are genocided, since Jewish prophecy states that the Antichrist, or the Jewish Messiah, the Moshiach, cannot come and the world cannot have shalom until all the Christians have first been genocided and the world is wholly under control of the Jews. That was the whole point of the 3 world wars, where Zionist planners still call the 3-part war of Gog and Magog. Okay, so we're going to come back to the Gog and Magog war and how that is explained by the Zionists here, a war between Christians and Muslims. Okay, we'll come back to that in the video that we're going to watch. By an amazing coincidence, David Elias Goldberg was found dead in his New York apartment on the 8th of June, 2019. And I've mentioned him before. Goldberg also recorded an audio in which he exposed Project Zephyr, which is the alleged Zionist plan to kill 50 million Americans because their awareness of Zionism had reached intolerable degrees that were now beyond Zionist control. And this despite all the Zionist indoctrination, narrative control, and propaganda to give a positive spin to Zionism, which is a satanic form of Nazism. Pretty well said, huh? In 2004, Donald Trump already revealed that he is a Kabbalist, which is a form of black magic that is central to Freemasonry and to Talmudism. Talmudism, which is the satanic half of Judaism. On page 188 of his 2004 book called The Way to the Top, the best business advice I ever received, Trump admitted that he is in fact practicing the Kabbalah, Judaic black magic, when he wrote, one day, this is a quote, one day when my Kabbalah teacher, Rabbi Etan Yardeni, asked how I was doing, I told him I needed a break. I was thoroughly exhausted, overwhelmed, and overworked, end quote. So he says in his 2004 book, he has a Kabbalah teacher. Again, Judaic black magic. Turkey suspects Israel fabricated Trump Air Force One assassination plot to derail U.S.-Iran deal. Israeli intelligence had warned that Iranian operatives could target Trump's plane with shoulder-fired missiles during the NATO summit in Ankara amid tense negotiations with Tehran. So this has all happened pretty recently as well. He was reportedly bundled into a catering vehicle, Trump was, and taken to an accompanying U.S. government aircraft at C-32. It's called a flex and a humiliation ritual, kind of like giving him a gold pager immediately following the mass murder and maiming by blowing up of pagers. And remember, here's the press with both hands graphic here on the golden pager he was given. So that stuff is all tied together, helping to prove that, in fact, Donald Trump is indeed a Kabbalist. All right, and then let's go to this article. I had to look up what are exactly the sacred texts of Judaism. Of course, you know about the one that you always hear about, right? The Torah. And the Torah is, unfortunately, the one that we all assume is being used, when in fact, that's not exactly the truth. Torah, 5 books of Moses. The first 5 books of the Bible, essentially. We like to think they're using at least the first part of the same Bible we are, but and you know, some are, but that is not their main book. Here are some of their other their other sacred texts. There are 10 listed here. Number 2, Psalms, which they call Tehillim. Number 3, the Book of Esther, Megillah. Number 4, the Mishnah, which I'd heard of. Number 5, of course, the Talmud. And it's a whole series of books. Number 6, the Zohar. That's the one that Trump is keeping close to his heart, the Zohar. Number 7, the Mishnah, Torah. Number 8, the Code of Jewish Law, Shulchan Aruch, I guess. Number 9, the Siddur, or the prayer book. Number 10, the Tanya. So, anyway, there's a listing here on this website of all of the different ones. The Zohar is the one that's kind of in question here, but the Talmud is the one that claims that, Jesus is in hell and boiling in a vat of excrement and all this stuff. They really love Jesus, don't they? Well, it's about as evil as it gets, obviously. The Torah, the Talmud and the Zohar and all this stuff. So what I came across, though, was an interview with this guy. And I'm going to show his information at the end of the video as well, because I think it's really important that you guys, if you happen to be on X, follow him, because this guy really knows what he's talking about. And he said a lot of the same stuff that I've said over the many years I've been doing this program, and end time dates as well. Matt Murphy is a follower of Jesus, a patriot, a former Green Beret, a sniper, and he calls himself a fake cowboy. And also his pronouns are goy and goyim. So, but I saw his interview on the Alex Jones Network, which he was being interviewed by Alex's son, Rex. So what I did was I took the 3 interviews and compiled them together, and that was a pretty long video. So what I did was I called that down to only the parts where he's talking about prophecy. And he knows all about prophecy and how it's all tied in with Donald Trump and the Trump administration directly with Israel, and how it all kind of works together. And I thought he did an excellent job of breaking things down and explaining things in a way that really helps to connect some dots and why things are unfolding the way that we're seeing them unfold, and why Israel seemingly is not doing anything to promote peace in any way, why they're not stopping, why they're continuing to hit hard on every possible front, and why Trump is going along with all of it. So this helps explain things. So let's watch this video. This is a video that, again, I put together from 3 different interviews over several days with Matt Murphy and Rex Jones. Again, giving them full credit from the AJN network. And he just explains things really, really well. This video is about 10 minutes, but that's about as short as I could make it. And I tried to only include the prophetic information. And if you want to see more, obviously you guys can follow him on X. I do know his. He stated his Instagram page with 1.5 million followers got taken down recently. So that tells me he is really on to something. All right. So anyway, let's look at this video, and we will be back in just a few minutes.
The Abraham Accords versus BRICS, and how that all ties into it, and how really like Greater Israel and them rebuilding the Third Temple is central to their plan.
Yes, 100%. Well, so I'm going to take it back a little bit. We can get into the prophetic thing in a second, but real world order is just the new world order, is that they want to create Greater Israel. The founder of Israel, who's an atheist, by the way, David Ben-Gurion, said that the goal of Israel, this was in Look magazine, January 17th, 1962, is to abolish all nation states, to abolish all armies, to create a world police, and to bring all countries together under the Noahide laws, which is the Abraham Accords, is how they would do it. And they would create a world court that would be headquartered in Jerusalem, usher in this Pax Judaica and Greater Israel and this globalization new world order. So the first thing is the sacrifice of the perfect red heifer. So a lot of people believe that red heifer was sacrificed in August 25. I think I've got some evidence of that. There were several prominent Jewish people that went on talk shows and were holding up the little vial baggie that they were setting water and some ash from this red heifer in to do the cleansing ritual to prepare for.
Right, and this sounds crazy. This sounds crazy. They're on video bragging about it.
Yeah, 100%. It sounds crazy because they make people feel crazy for believing it. And it takes you back to propaganda and psychological warfare. People have been doing things like this since the beginning of the time.
Right.
Now people think it's crazy because they tell you it is. Right? It's part of that gaslighting psyops thing, and people just don't see it. So they have sacrificed one perfect red heifer. I don't know if they have to do another one yet. The next part is they have to build the third temple, rebuild Solomon's temple. The only problem with that is that the Al-Aqsa Mosque is sitting in the spot where Solomon's temple needs to be built, and it's been there about 1,600 years. So in order to build the third temple, they have to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It gets very, complicated for Israel, but then two, they've just dumped all these Muslims into the Middle Eastern Europe, which brings me to the next part of the prophecy, which is what they call the Gog-Magog War, or Dam versus Dam. So basically, they believe that they have to start this Zionist version of the Gog-Magog War, which is Christians versus Muslims. And Albert Pike has some prophecy on this for World War III as well. He's a very elite Mason back in the day. But they have to make Christians and Muslims go to war. And in their prophecy, this Gog-Magog War will get so bloody and get so bad that eventually the Christians and Muslims will realize that they've been deceived and they shouldn't be fighting each other, that the real enemy is the Jews, Israel, and they believe that the Christians and Muslims will then descend upon Israel and to the chosen lands, and their Messiah will come to power by doing some miraculous thing to stop the attack. They believe that Mashiach ben Yosef, or Messiah ben Joseph, depending, in the English version, he's like the hype man Messiah. And they compare him to basically say that he's going to be someone who's a builder, someone that's very experienced in building and construction. And then also he commands a great military. That's what their prophecy says, right? And they also say that his right ear will be pierced by God to designate him as the Messiah, right? So a lot of Israelis started to believe when that, shooting happened, on Trump, back, during the campaign. Actually, that was the first time I was on your dad's show. He played the video. He didn't have me on, but he played my video breaking that down because I was a sniper as well. And when you see that right ear piercing to a lot of, the more radical rabbi Zionist prophecy Israelis, they believe that that was Trump's designation as Mashiach ben Yosef, and that as a builder, he would be the one to build the third temple. But before that, he would use his great military to secure greater Israel for Israel. And that he's going to be like that hype man Messiah, and that he will do all the things necessary to lay the prophetic foundation and the physical foundation for the actual Jewish Messiah to rise to power. Well, because, there's a couple dynamics here, right? The main dynamic is Israel was created to manifest destiny for Zionist Jewish prophecy, right? The founder of Israel, David Ben-Gurion, has multiple quotes out there, and I know I've talked about a couple on the show from Look Magazine about the purpose of Israel. Netanyahu speaks on this a lot about the prophetic goals of Israel. So they believe that they are God's chosen people. They don't say what God, right? Just God's chosen people, and that they have to reclaim the promised lands. They believe they have to create this Pax Judaica, Greater Israel. They believe they should be the world superpower. They believe they should be in charge of the world. This is in their religious books. This is in their prophecy. And Netanyahu talks about it all the time now. So, the biggest issue for me is that Israel has an agenda. It is a religious agenda, and they will not stop. Netanyahu will not stop. The people that are actually in charge of Israel above Netanyahu, like the Rothschilds and, name all the other families, they will not stop because their agenda is Agenda 2030. It's globalization,
Yes.
New World Order, Zionist Jewish Messiah. That's their goal. So again, Nothing's stopping them. So, they are far into the game, right? They have, this has been going on for a very long time. This is prophecy. This is a generational play. And we're in the last, we're on the 5-yard line. We're in the red zone, man. And, Israel cannot quit now. Netanyahu cannot quit now. And that is a threat to the world because the world knows Israel, again, is working on religion, Zionist prophecy, and they have an agenda. And their agenda is not peace. Their agenda is not, equality. It's not setting up trade deals. Their agenda is taking things over, globalization and control, and then for the Jewish people to be the elite race ruling the world and the Noahide laws governing all of the Goyim, right? That's their agenda. They've openly said it. They clearly say it. It's their prophecy. So again, that's why they're pushing the Noahide laws so much, right?
Explain what those
have
are.
to collapse.
Explain what those are.
So the Noahide laws are Old Testament laws that are, established for the early followers of the God of Abraham, right? And it centers around this one crux that is going to be extremely manipulated. So the Noahide laws say you can only worship one God, right? One God. No other gods, just one God. Now, it doesn't say what God. It just says one God, right? Now, the lie that the Zionists tell and they use is they hide behind Judaism. And, Jews believe in the God of Abraham. Obviously, they didn't accept Jesus. But there's a whole sect of Jews that worship Baal, Moloch, Saturn, that do, idolatry,
in the Bible,
paganism.
In the Bible. It's literally in the Bible. King Solomon did it. Do not give your children to the fires of Moloch, the Star of Remphan, all this stuff. Keep going.
Yeah, well, the Star of Remphan is the Star of David. David never had a star, right? That's the thing. They put the Star of Remphan on the Israeli flag. That is the Star of Satan, right? And so, they're very blatantly obvious about what they do, right? They hide behind Judaism, but it's so obvious people think it's a conspiracy. So anyways, they've got all of this, evil just basically hidden, right? Well, not hidden, just it's right in front of our faces. But when you start to look at the agendas, right, and in the second and third order of this, with the Noahide laws, what God is going to be that one God? Well, I think we know the answer to that. It's going to be Baal, Moloch, some probably hybrid of that. Maybe they'll even gaslight us and say the God of Abraham. But did you know, according to the Noahide laws, it's illegal to worship Jesus because Jesus is not the Son of God to them. So to a Noahidean, and that's now a growing religious group separate from Judaism, even though they're the Jewish, they're basically like the Goy Jewish puppets. They're pushing this now. So, Ben Gurion said that the Abraham's Accords and an international Noahide court would rule the world, right? Well, they're having the first international, Noahide convention now. So essentially, like the Noahide laws on the surface, they look well and good, it's pretty basic, almost 10 Commandment-esque, right? But they get to dictate who the God is, right? They get to dictate who is above that law and who isn't. Now, Noahide laws, again, they only go for Goyim. They're only for Goyim, every non-Jew. Jews are not subject to Noahide laws. That's the other interesting, part about this. Jews have an out on everything, right? The Jews have an out on the entire thing, or excuse me, Zionists, because a lot of Jews don't agree with this stuff, the Zionist Jews. And so the Goyim are the ones that are going to be susceptible to the Noahide laws. But
if you publicly worship, they chop off your head.
Yeah, they can kill you. They can do whatever they want to you.
How about that? How about that for a very concise 10-minute data dump, really, on how all of this is unfolding? And to me, it really explains things very well. And so kudos to Matt Murphy out there. And again, I'll show his X page again here in a second. But I just wanted to share that with you guys. I thought that his explanation for all of that stuff was really, really well done. Very excellent. And it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Now we can see why Trump is doing the things he's doing, he's probably been told that he is this godlike figure to Israel, and therefore he is going to do everything he can to help them, and he is. So, and it does help explain why, Netanyahu won't stop and Israel won't stop. This is all part of the plan. So then I came across a couple more articles here that kind of fit right into what we're talking about tonight. This is the first one. Prominent Orthodox rabbi: Trump was saved from assassination to destroy Iran. Saved to destroy Iran, and risks losing divine favor if he delays. So this is the kind of stuff that he's probably being told by the Zionists, by the people that are running things over there in Israel. Widely followed Orthodox lecturer has told his students that President Trump survived 2 years ago, assassination attempt in Butler, PA, for a specific divine purpose, and that his mission is to dismantle the Iranian regime, and that he risks losing heaven's backing the way King Saul lost his kingship if he continues to delay. The remarks came from Rabbi Mendel Kessin in the latest installment of an ongoing series examining what he calls the Hanhagat, the patterns by which Hashem governs history. Kessin paused a lengthy theological discussion to address what he called one thing, quote unquote, his audience would want to hear about current events, and used the moment to deliver one of his sharpest public statements yet on the American president. He's delaying, and he's making a tremendous mistake. That's what he said about taking out Iran completely. Kessin was blunt about what he sees as Trump's failure so far to act decisively against Iran. He's dilly-dallying, Kessin said. He's not doing it, making a tremendous mistake, but he doesn't understand. People look at him like there's something wrong with him, like he's a fool. Because everybody knows what Iran is. They've been fooling people for 47 years. Everybody knows you can't trust them. They will never repent. They could care less about human life. He's talking about Iran, but it sounds like he's talking about Israel. Kessin argued that Iran's regime and its proxy forces, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Hamas, kill people every day. Yeah, the Israelis are doing that. And that hesitation carries a moral cost of its own. So why are you letting them live? They should have died a long time ago, he said, dismissing the prospect of a negotiated settlement over Iran's nuclear program outright. You think that they're going to give you their uranium? Of course not, because without the uranium, they're nobody. He compared the idea of negotiating with Tehran to negotiating with Hitler. You don't argue with Hitler, do you? Are you going to trust Hitler? Well, I would say to all of that, who is really the new Hitler? Who's acting like Hitler now? I'll let you guys answer that question on your own, because it's pretty obvious. His conclusion was direct. Hashem wants him to take out Iran. And when I say wants him to take out Iran, to end them, to destroy the IRGC, and to take away this evil. So there you go. Like God couldn't just take out Iran if he really wanted to. Never heard of Sodom and Gomorrah? Balls of sulfur destroying entire cities. Wouldn't be that hard on a international scale. I would personally say that the U.S. has probably created way more problems than Iran ever did. Anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. And he does say, I personally believe that Trump was saved from the bullet in Pennsylvania to take out Yishmael in the form of Iran. So who knows what Trump's being told, but this kind of stuff could be feeding into his ego and his the way he is governing here, which is one of the reasons he's said stuff recently, in front of everybody, that he just doesn't really care about what Americans are feeling at the gas pump and with the economy. He's focused on the war. And this helps explain all of that, I think. So anyway, yeah, they want him to wipe out Iran. And I'm sure at some point, This is probably in the cards. Whether or not Trump does it or if Israel does it, I don't know. That tells me, just based on this article, that something big is coming down the pike for Iran, most likely, unfortunately. And then here's another article on the same site, Israel 365 News. A third red heifer is born. Rabbis race to examine the herd Israel has waited 2,000 years to raise. So yet another red heifer. We just had one a few days ago. They have red heifers coming out their ears in Israel. And this isn't the third. It might be the third one recently, but they had 7 that came from, wasn't it 7 or 5? No, they had 5 that came over from Texas a couple years ago. So they've had at least, by my math, at least 8, sounds like, maybe even more, who knows. Calf was born in a dairy barn in Jordan Valley last week. Delegation of rabbis stood over her, running their hands through her coat. She was the third red heifer of her kind to be born in Israel this season, joining 2 others already under the watch in Galilee in the Golan Heights. Together, the 3 calves represent the most concrete progress yet toward a goal, Jewish tradition that has been pursued since the destruction of the Second Temple, raising a red heifer whose ashes can restore ritual purity to the Jewish people. And as I said a few weeks ago, that they believe that they can do animal sacrifices and restore the purity, quote unquote, take away the sins of the entire people, all of them. They don't look at it like a Christian does, where it's a one-on-one basis where Jesus can take away your sins. His blood covers your sins. They see it as the animal's blood covers all of the people's sins. So that's why this is so important to them. Anyway, yeah, so yet another red heifer. The National Institute for Red Heifer Research, a body that unites religious Zionist, Litvish, and Hasidic rabbis around the single national mission. Members of the Institute traveled to all 3 farms in a single sweep, checking the calves from tail to head for disqualifying flaws that have derailed nearly every red heifer candidate in living memory. But as Matt Murphy stated in that video, there was one sacrificed about a year ago. It was July or August last year. Was that the one? Will there not be another one? I don't know. And he said he didn't know either. There could be another. But we do know that one was sacrificed. They called it a practice. But was it really? But the point is, apparently they have so many of these things, not because God is directing that they have, red heifers to choose from, but they have to be using some sort of genetic manipulation to get all these red heifers all of a sudden. They've had 3 just real recently. And then 5 a couple years ago. So, and one of those 5 was the one that was sacrificed last year. So, I don't know. Anyway, that's all I had on all of that. But I just wanted to kind of share all that with you guys because I thought it was really, really interesting and a good breakdown. And again, we'll show you Matt Murphy's page. So make sure you're following him on X. And I thought it was really interesting. I don't know what this says. I guess you can come to your own conclusion. But when I followed Matt earlier today, and then I went to look at his page, shows the number of followers he has. And I was the 3,333rd follower to Matt Murphy. Pretty wild. So anyway, yeah, he's here in Nashville where I am. So I would love to get together and talk to him at some point. Super, super smart guy. Seems to know his stuff really well. Again, former Green Beret, Patriot, former sniper, and so on. So he knows his stuff. He's been there. He's seen it. He has experienced it firsthand. All right, let's get on with the rest of the program here. But we covered a lot there in that section, I think. Okay, we'll start with this one. Zero Hedge article, British busybodies fled 999, which would be like 911, to report their neighbors' barbecues after stupid government alert. So this is what's going on over in the UK. Millions of phones across England and Wales blared all of a sudden on Friday evening as the government unleashed its emergency alert system over a wildfire risk, quote unquote, What followed was a wave of neighbor-on-neighbor reporting that left fire services and police inundated with non-emergency calls about barbecues in gardens and parks. I wonder why they don't do what the New Orleans police are doing now. Have AI answer all the phone calls. The same compliant instincts that flourished during COVID appear to be alive and well. Yeah, exactly. COVID did very strange things to the population. Bootlickers are still everywhere. Paul Joseph Watson says. Exactly. The alert described by First Secretary of State Louise High as the most extensive use of the UK's emergency alert system in response to an active incident warned of a very high risk of wildfires nationally. It instructed residents, landowners, and visitors not to undertake any activity that could start a fire, including disposable barbecues, fire pits, garden incinerators, or fireworks. Even a small flame, it said, could rapidly develop into a major wildfire, placing lives, homes, businesses, and emergency responders at risk. People were told to report signs of fire immediately by calling 999. Prime Minister Andy Burnham said the alert was triggered at the request of firefighters and urged the public to take it seriously. He's repeatedly described Britain as a tinderbox right now. Yeah, I would say maybe in more than one way. After a record stretch of extreme heat and multiple major incidents, including a West Midlands blaze that destroyed 19 homes across more than 500 acres. Within hours, the practical result became clear. Fire and rescue services reported a high volume of 999 calls about neighbors using barbecues, lighting bonfires, or campfires. So it's still alive and well, I guess. The whole COVID thing where you're reporting your neighbors. Still alive and well, at least in the UK. I think it would be here too, especially in blue cities, for sure. But yeah, British busybodies. That's exactly right. Speaking of British busybodies, well, came across this article. I hadn't seen this anywhere else. Radar Online, which I think is fairly reputable. I don't know. I'm not sure. Exclusive. King Charles has a $20 million bounty on his head from the Iranian government, according to reports. Now, that's pretty interesting, if you ask me, given the fact that he could be the biblical Antichrist. Little old, yes. Not what we expect, definitely. But he matches in so many ways. He matches in his symbology. He matches in his lineage. And he matches in his name and title to the number 666 in English and in Hebrew. And he matches also in his power. He's had the power behind the scenes since 1969 in his investiture. So we've had basically an Antichrist character running the world. 56 years? Something like that. King Charles allegedly has a $20 million bounty on his head from the Iranian government. Radar Online can reveal, as the monarch is believed to want extra security for himself and his family. The IRGC, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, reportedly issued a threat against the royal family after getting hit by airstrikes delivered by U.S. B-1 bombers based at Royal Air Force Station in Gloucestershire. I don't know how to say that. Anyway, it says, an eerie threat. We warn the British monarchy. Several members of the royal family could be at risk following the death threat from Iran. We warn the British monarchy, which is the main cause of misfortunes of the people of our region and has a dark record of dividing Islamic countries, widespread massacres, and imposing authoritarian governments. The death threat stated, accusing the UK of helping America and Israel in the war against Iran. The conflict in Iran kicked off after Trump ordered an attack on the country. The IRGC warned any base used to invade Iranian territory is our legitimate target. According to experts, the IRGC is activating sleeper cell agents in the UK to take out future King Prince William and his wife, Princess Kate. Other possible targets include disgraced royal Prince Andrew and his daughters, as well as Prince Harry. So, I don't know. I'm not sure that that there's any truth to this, but it is interesting, isn't it? I'm sure the king is taking a look at the security protocols following a threat to the possibility of active IRA militants being involved because they've carried out attacks on the royals before. National security expert Wayne Madsen speculated, referring to the IRA's boat bombing assassination of Queen Elizabeth's cousin, Lord Mountbatten, in 1979. He added, I think the core royal family, Queen Camilla and Prince William, are pretty well protected, but you never know. But Prince Harry and ex-Prince Andrew and their families are soft targets that can easily be picked off. Insiders have noted that Iranian government has allegedly developed a human and weapons smuggling route in the UK operated by Unit 700 of the Quds Force, QUDS Force, a branch of the IRGC. So it is interesting. It doesn't really go into much other detail about the bounty on Charles, but other than just in the headline here. King Charles may have a bounty on his head. It sounds like it's the entire royal family they might try and take out. Would be a shame, wouldn't it? It would just be terrible. But I don't think they'll have such an easy time taking out the old geezer here. I think it will be harder than they might think it is. All right. Minnesota Secretary of State threatens James O'Keefe, Cam Higbee for going undercover in Muslim garb and easily exposing state's insane voter vouching system. You guys hear about this at all? I saw the undercover video a couple days ago. It was pretty funny, actually. Minnesota's Democrat Secretary of State threatened James O'Keefe and Cam Higbee after they went undercover in Muslim garb to expose the state's insane voter vouching system. Under Minnesota's statute 201.061, a registered voter can sign an affidavit affirming that they know another individual resides in the same precinct, allowing that person to register at the polls without presenting standard proof of residence. One registered voter can vouch for up to 8 people, O'Keefe stated. We wanted to find out exactly what this looks like inside of a polling place and how far election workers would let us take it. O'Keefe was dressed in a thobe, T-H-O-B-E, a thobe, and Cam Higbee wore a black burqa as they entered polling stations across Minneapolis. Yeah, Higbee was pretending to be O'Keefe's wife, completely covered in the old beekeeper suit. James O'Keefe used a hilariously awful Middle Eastern accent when he tried to vouch for other voters. I have a question about the vouching program. Yeah, vouching. I can vouch for them, but they are not registered, O'Keefe asked the poll workers. Yeah, that's fine, the poll worker said. Good. Can I bring 5 more, O'Keefe asked the poll workers. Up to 8 people, she said. Up to 8? Okay, that's a good thing, O'Keefe said. If you're all in the same precinct and you're already registered, you can vouch for them as ID. 8 people, a poll worker told James O'Keefe. You are the ID, the election worker told O'Keefe. O'Keefe said, I am the ID. Here's the video here. Instead of addressing the issues with voter vouching and admitting it could lead to vote fraud, which it undoubtedly does, Minnesota Secretary of State Steve Simon lashed out at James O'Keefe and Cam Higbee's outrageous misconduct. Steve Simon threatened to take action against O'Keefe and Higbee. So yeah, they're the ones that need to be arrested and stopped because they exposed the fraud going on in Minnesota when it comes to the voter vouch system. All he had to say was, yeah, I vouch for these 8 people, and he can bring 8 more people with him without any sort of ID or anything to vote, probably, my guess is, as Democrats. And speaking of insane Muslim things that they're trying to push, breaking Dallas airport cancels plans to install Islamic foot washing stations after Governor Abbott intervenes. He's only intervening because they got busted. Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport on Friday evening canceled plans to install Islamic wudu, not voodoo, wudu, W-U-D-U, foot washing stations. As the Gateway Pundit reported this week, according to Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation, the project consists of adding ablution stations to existing concourse level restrooms in Terminal D, one men's ablution station in existing men's restroom, and one women's ablution station in the existing women's restroom, and is privately funded. Oh yes, no taxpayers will suffer. Yeah, right. The construction was set to begin in about a week, and it would have cost about $300,000. But I guess they had some rich Islamic people getting ready to pay for it. So anyway, it all came out, and then they had to backtrack and say, no, okay, we'll stop. We won't do it. Which just means they'll do it secretly without announcing it later on, and probably spend more money. According to Fox News, Dallas-Fort Worth canceled plans to build the wudu stations after Abbott launched a probe and threatened to revoke grants. I bet you he already knew about it and was fine with it until it became public. Wudu. Ablution. Words I do not care to know, but have to repeat them, unfortunately, because it's the world we live in. Because Texas is becoming, I guess, infinity Islamic and infinity Indian and infinity data centers. Poor Texas. Watch. Massive explosion shatters Italian factory south of Rome that supplies munitions to Ukraine. Yeah, I saw this and immediately thought of the video of the the munitions factory, explosions factory exploding in south of Nashville here, back when right after Charlie was taken out. This is a pretty incredible video. I don't know if this is it though. I sort of don't think it is. I think that's just the here it is.
Cazzo!
Wow, that is a massive explosion. Yeah, I'll back it up.
Cazzo!
Wow. This is what's crazy, though. And I find this hard to believe. Let me find it. Italian media reported that there were no casualties, with the AGI news agency saying employees sheltered in secure areas at the facility. How would they have gotten there that quickly? Video shared on social media showed a fire at the factory followed by a massive explosion. The fright is great, but right now it's essential to keep calm and above all to avoid spreading untrue information such as that relating to the 2007 accident, which is once again circulating. We will update you as soon as possible with verified information, the mayor wrote. I don't know what 2007. Maybe somebody was posting old footage, but that right there was not old. Nobody was injured or hurt or killed. Injured or killed, I should say. Yeah, so far no injuries were reported. I just find that hard to believe, but maybe there weren't very many people at the plant. That's the only thing I can think of. Explosion occurred when firefighters and police were already at the site responding to a fire. We saw the fire burning, and yet this whole thing explodes and no one is hurt. I wonder if people were vaporized and they just didn't even realize it right away or something. I don't know. That was pretty intense. All right, and then I thought this one was I don't know. I won't say it's good, but it's good if they hold her accountable, but they won't. Karma comes for Bill Gates. His daughter could be looking at 20 years in prison. Do you think that would actually happen? Is that even possible? Bill Gates' daughter doing 20 years? Well, number one, that's the maximum. And number two, it's Bill Gates' daughter. Gates has spent a heck of a lot of time worrying about what everybody else is doing. He's fixated on our health, vaccines, climate, food, and future. And during COVID, the Microsoft billionaire became one of the most recognizable voices in the global pandemic fiasco, even though he's not a doctor, an elected official, or an expert. He is a nerd. Then there was his BFF, Jeffrey Epstein. Gates was called out for being way too cozy with Epstein, so much so his wife said it was one reason for their divorce. After all the backlash, Bill came out and called his decision to pal around with Epstein a grave error in judgment. He was hauled before the House Oversight Committee earlier this year to answer questions about the creepy relationship, and he denied knowing or participating in Epstein's crimes. Okay. Granted, he hasn't been accused of criminal wrongdoing, but not many people in Jeff's orbit have been. So that really doesn't say much, right? Meanwhile, like we mentioned, 27-year marriage to his wife Melinda ended in divorce, with Melinda later making it very clear that Bill's relationship with Epstein was among the issues that troubled her. So maybe Bill could have spent less time worrying about blocking the sun and what the rest of us were doing, and a little more time checking in on the home front. Because now karma has really come knocking on his front door. This time, the fallout includes his 23-year-old daughter, Phoebe Gates, who is dealing with a major scandal of her own. Phoebe and her friend, Sophia Kiani, founded a company called Phia, P-H-I-A. I don't know if it's Phia or Phia. Anyway, it's an AI-powered shopping tool that helps users find better prices and discount codes while earning money through affiliate commissions. The company has raised tens of millions of dollars and attracted a literal parade of uber-rich and celebrity investors. But Phia is now accused of engaging in a practice called cookie stuffing. Cookie stuffing. Yes, it sounds like some sweet thing your grandmother does at Christmas time, but it's actually way more serious than that. More on that in a moment. What's really bad news for Bill and his daughter is that the fraud allegations become a lot uglier and more serious when internal company messages reportedly suggested this might not have been an accidental software hiccup that nobody knew about. So what is that cookie stuffing? This is when a website or app secretly claims credit for a sale that it didn't actually generate, so it can collect the commission. To try and explain it even better for this story, imagine your friend tells you about a great store and sends you there. The store promised your friend a commission for bringing in customers. You walk up to the cash register and pay, and right at the last second, a random guy sneaks over and slips his referral card into the cashier's hand. That move gets him paid for sending you to the store even though he had nothing to do with it. That's basically what cookie stuffing can do online. Bill and Melinda Gates' daughter Phoebe had been caught in a major fraud scandal after internal messages revealed that her startup was knowingly using a deceptive affiliate marketing tactic to claim commissions on sales that it did not generate. The scheme, known as cookie stuffing, has previously resulted in federal fraud prosecutions and prison sentences. Corporate attorney Ariel Givner warns that the conduct is typically treated as federal wire fraud in U.S. courts. Givner confirms that Gates could face a max penalty of up to 20 years in prison plus fines and restitution. Wow. Revelations are especially damaging because Gates has repeatedly tried to distance herself from her billionaire father's wealth and influence, insisting that her own company would succeed with no ties to my privilege or my last name, end quote. But I bet she'll rely on the ties to the privilege and her last name when it comes to serving prison time, don't you? Anyway, enough on that, but just the old acorn doesn't fall too far from the tree, does it? I'll just leave it at that. Yep. They love their fraud. And the more they can, more money they can bring in on it, the better, I guess. All right, here is a WNG.org SIFT article. Josh Kushner. Where would you know that name, Kushner? Former Disney CEO purchases the Lakers for a record price. You know, the LA Lakers. It's a basketball team, and you might have heard of them. Josh Kushner and Bob Iger purchased the LA Lakers for $12.5 billion. Wow. The highest ever paid for an American sports team. Sources told ESPN. The two made the offer after the team's majority owner, Mark Walter, purchased the team's controlling interest late last year. The sale marks the second time the team's changed hands in as many years. The price beats the Lakers' own previous record sale of $10 billion last year. Wow. The new record-setting prices are massive leaps from the Golden State Warriors' 2010 record sale at $450 million. So yeah, this is $12.5 billion. Kushner, a billionaire venture capitalist, is the younger brother of President Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. There you go. So the new owner of the Lakers is Jared Kushner's brother. Just everything that happens with the Trumps seems to be getting shadier and shadier, doesn't it? So now they're involved in the purchase of the Lakers. I don't know about that. Speaking of Trump, I think you have people who are getting fed up with it and tired of lying. Press secretary to leave White House to focus on motherhood. Yeah, that's what she's saying publicly. 28-year-old White House press secretary planned to step down from her role at the end of August to spend more time with her family. Sure she does. I'm sure she will, and certainly will be raking it in, probably have some sort of Fox News gig or something afterwards. But, yeah, she's probably tired of lying for the Trump administration, is my guess. So it's very convenient, huh? Haven't had an update about Luigi for a while. Mangione pleads guilty to stalking charges and admits to shooting the CEO. The admission could complicate a separate New York murder trial scheduled for next month. Luigi Mangione has admitted to fatally shooting United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson and pleaded guilty to 2 federal stalking charges. The 28-year-old entered the plea before U.S. District Judge Margaret Garnett in Manhattan. According to the Department of Justice, he faces a maximum sentence of life in prison without parole, with sentencing scheduled for December 18th. Prosecutors said that Mangione traveled across state lines and tracked Thompson's movements before the killing. He pleaded guilty to interstate stalking, resulting in death, and cyber stalking through interstate facilities, resulting in death. Quote, I shot Mr. Thompson in Manhattan and he died, end quote. He told the court. He did not enter into a plea agreement with prosecutors, which can allow defendants to receive reduced charges or a lighter sentence in exchange for pleading guilty. You think they're going to go light on old Mangione here, or you think they'll throw the book at him? I tend to think, being I was in New York especially, I tend to think they're going to go light on him, and he probably won't do that much time. He still faces 8 felony counts in New York, including second-degree murder, 6 weapons charges, and possession of a forged instrument, with his trial due to begin on September 8th. Thompson was shot from behind outside a Midtown Manhattan hotel on December 4th, 2024, while heading to a United Healthcare investor conference. Yep, and we all saw him do it, unlike anything associated with Charlie Kirk. All right, let's see here. Oh, yeah, I mentioned this earlier. CIA had low confidence in Trump assassination plot, claims WAPO. The intelligence on the alleged threat reportedly originated from Israel and was met with skepticism by American spies. Yeah, but Trump didn't believe what came from the American intelligence community, meaning the DNI, Director of National Intelligence. He didn't believe that information. He instead believed what came from Israel. U.S. intelligence community doubted reports of an Iranian plot to kill President Trump by shooting down Air Force One as it departed a NATO summit in Turkey. Their assessment was reportedly conveyed to the administration, yet the Secret Service still opted to covertly move Trump to another aircraft. That they did. U.S. media broke the story of clandestine maneuver this Monday. On leaving the meeting, Trump abruptly switched from his new Qatari-gifted Boeing 747-8 to the previous Air Force One, but it turned out he secretly left that aircraft as well in an airport catering truck, flying aboard a smaller military plane to the UK. He's said to have reboarded the older Air Force One there to create the impression that he was on it the entire time. So they said that they didn't believe this assassination plot was real, but the actual plot was shooting down Air Force One with a handheld missile, I guess. Anyway, yeah. So who knows if it was true or not, but it is interesting that he believed the Israelis over his own intelligence agencies. Wow. What's that tell you? RT reports from scene of Israeli settler attempt to force a Palestinian family from their home. U.S. envoy to Israel. Well, that's his official title. He's actually, what I say is he is the ambassador. He's the Israeli ambassador to Israel. That's what I call him. Mike Huckabee has condemned a days-long blockade of several homes in the West Bank, including one owned by a dual U.S. citizen. Yeah, he finally had something negative to say about Israel. Huckabee did. U.S. Ambassador to Israel Huckabee has branded Israeli settlers besieging 3 Palestinian families in the West Bank homes, as terrorists. The days-long siege has targeted several properties, including one owned by a dual citizen. I wonder why now. I mean, because he's been okay up to now. He's been okay with these settlers going in and roughing up other Lebanese people who are living there. Is it because this person is a dual U.S. citizen? Is that why? That's why it matters now? Or is it something else? Maybe he was told that he needed to support this? I don't know. I do find it interesting, though. Huckabee, known for his pro-Israel views and support for the settler movement, issued the rare rebuke in a post on X on Thursday. Yeah, it probably won't happen anymore, is my guess. But, yeah, it's an odd one. And I had some people send me this video. I'm sure some of you guys have seen it. This guy, top rabbi, says China will destroy Western Christian nations on Israel's behalf because pagan Rome destroyed Jerusalem's second temple in 70 AD. Yeah, we all get lumped in together with Rome. We all helped Rome destroy the second temple, so we get to die. That's what this guy says. And they actually do think that, by the way. Plus, he says all nations of the world will go down to their knees, especially the Western ones. They're going to go down hard for how they treated us over the last 2,000 years, this guy says. But he's one of the people in charge, so don't be surprised if, unfortunately, he's probably right. Anyways, Alex responds to wild-eyed Zionist zealot because a Roman emperor gave him an order, I've got to die. You're going to give China our missile secrets we gave you so they can nuke our cities because of some Romans? No, it's just an excuse to be evil, he said. Alex said. Absolutely. Anyway, the video's here. Here, I guess we can watch it.
Listen, a far-off land is going to come and go after the Western allies. The Westerners are fighting, and they're going back and forth, and then this far-off country comes, and Edom falls falls to them. They lose. The Western countries lose this war.
It's like they lost in Vietnam.
No, very much not like that. Because it's all their armies, everybody, their whole sovereignty, their sovereignty is going to be gone.
So they
will no longer be a superpower. God's going to come and save these China, whoever it is, and wipe out the Christian countries. Why? Because they destroyed the Second Temple. Meaning, while you were all rooting for the West this whole time, you forgot about the fact that they have major debt to pay, and that is they destroyed the base of Mignos.
And China never touched the base of Mignos.
Right? They don't even know what it is.
He loves it, doesn't he? He loves the prospect of Western countries being slaughtered. These people are absolutely insane and evil. I don't know which they're more of, insane or evil, but it is quite the combination. All right, we got to go. We have to look at this one before we go tonight. We've got a few minutes left. McDonald's loyalty program builds secret data profiles on customers to predict purchases and spending habits. These files are thicker than what the FBI or NSA have on most people. McCreepy, it says. Now, I would point out that this is not just McDonald's doing this. It's anybody and everybody, store-wise, like stores and restaurants and things like that, who have apps that you can put on your phone. That's what this is exposing. YouTuber reports on McDonald's loyalty program tracking everything you do. McDonald's loyalty program builds secret data profiles on customers to predict purchases and spending habits. Yeah, it is. It's quite the story. And it's a good video here if you want further information, but it's done by a YouTube channel called The Quartering. But yeah, it's essentially a 500-page report that this guy, who was a frequent McDonald's customer, he requested that they give him the full dossier on him, and it was like 500 pages. It's ridiculous how much information McDonald's had on him. So that means they're doing the same thing across the board for any and all of their customers who are using the app on their phone to save a couple bucks on some French fries. So just keep that in mind when you install your favorite apps on your phone using the free app, because the trade-off is you're giving all of your data to the people who own the app. That's the trade-off. That's why they give it to you for free, not because they want to give you a few bucks off on your meal. That's the reason they do that, so that they get you to install it so that they have access to all of your data, which they can then sell. And we'll look at this one real quick. Seafloor fossils identified as Denisovan, fueling claims tied to biblical giants. I saw this and I'm like, oh, wow, they must mean some of the really huge giants. I hadn't heard that they'd recovered any bones in the ocean. But it is important. It says researchers identified leg bones recovered from the Penghu Channel, which is between Taiwan and mainland China, as Denisovan remains, according to a report published August 12th. The study, led by University of Tokyo, used protein analysis to link a partial thigh bone and a shin bone to the Denisovan lineage and ancient human group, an ancient human group that split from the Neanderthal lineage about 550,000 years ago. Get a load of how tall these huge giants were in Asia. Estimated heights for the individual were about 5 feet 11 and 6 feet 3 inches. That's about my size. I might be taller than 5 feet 11. I don't know. Anyway, I thought that was funny. 5 feet 11. Wow, that's huge. Now, are they really giants? I don't know. But there was an important line in here. I'm looking for it. Scientific findings on body size and lifestyle. The researchers focused on what the bones reveal about the Denisovan bodies. In the study, they wrote, our findings demonstrate that the Denisovan population at the Northern Circle had larger body size than earlier Homo erectus, as well as late Pleistocene Homo sapiens in Eastern Asia. They stated that the finding challenges Bergman's rule, which anticipates a latitudinal decline in body size, and that the large Denisovan brain may have resulted from their large body size, at least partly. Again, 5 feet 11 to 6 foot 3. But I guess they were giants compared to what, normal Asian people now, I suppose. Corsetti posted on X that the discovery indicates Denisovans were 8 inches taller than the average man today. He wrote, I've asked before, I'll ask again, were Denisovans the Nephilim giants described in the Bible, ? He also pointed to the seafloor location of the bones, writing, by the way, the discovered bones were found on the seafloor. Gee, almost as if the Great Flood actually happened. It did, regardless of these bones, of whether they are of an unrelated time frame. Yeah, it is interesting that they found them where they found them. They don't seem that huge to me. I mean, some of the pre-flood giants were 30 feet tall. Not 6 foot and under. So, I don't know. I think that's odd. But it is interesting that they found them where they found them. In the ocean. All right, let's look at just a few more things here. We can wrap it up. Got some Substacks here just to peruse through real quickly. Again, we'll link to all these in my Substack post so that, if you want to get the lowdown on these things. We had a lot of videos tonight, so if you want to get the lowdown on some of these articles that I bring up, they will be linked in my Substack post that I'll send out probably on Tuesday, maybe Wednesday. We'll see how the week goes. Depopulation. Scientists, quote unquote, published study arguing world population needs to be halved to 4 billion to save the planet. A more modest population would protect Earth's natural heritage, including its wild habitats, wild species, and its climate. Such a world is within our grasp, so therefore half of you must die. They didn't say that part. I'm adding that. I say that the scientists who came up with this need to be the first ones to go. Another day, another headline calling for mass depopulation. Yep, exactly. We are too far along for all of that. It won't matter now. That's what I think. All right, another Wine Press, Substack. Arkansas passes law forcing schools to install audio recorders in every locker and dressing room. I'm surprised not cameras. By 2027 to allegedly stop bullying. So yeah, they're going to put microphones in every locker room and every dressing room. Every locker and every dressing room. An act to create Eli's Law to require each public school to install an audio recording device in each locker room and dressing room on the public school campus. And for other purposes. We don't know what that is. Here it just says every locker. I was picturing every locker in the hallway, so I don't know if it's both or what. State of Arkansas passed a bill last year that requires all schools to install audio recorders in locker and dressing rooms. Yeah, both. Both rooms, okay. So here's the actual law. It's there. House Bill 1866 in Arkansas. That's disappointing. But not surprising. It doesn't say they're putting flock cameras in it, though. So I guess that's a different problem. Look at this. This guy I've always found to be super creepy, and this proves it. Dennis Prager, founder of conservative think tank and media group PragerU, says animated child porn is not evil. I won't call fantasy evil! ! He says, while smoking a stogie. Dennis Prager, the founder of well-known conservative media group and lobbyist think tank known as PragerU, does not believe that animated child porn is evil, he revealed in a clip that has gone viral. Prager's disgusting remarks came during a debate he had with a Catholic podcaster named Matt Fradd in 2023 on the issue of pornography. Wonder why so long ago. Fradd very much argues against pornography in all forms, while Prager is very wishy-washy on the issue, blurring the lines between real physical fornication and perverseness versus fantasy, acting, and drawings. I wonder why it's taken 3 years for this to come out. So here's the back and forth, including the video as well. So there you go. If you want a reason to not follow PragerU and their insistence on Israel being perfect, then here's a good reason. So, but it does kind of fall in line. What he's saying does kind of fall in line with Israel as well. I could see where they would also support what he's saying. Man. Breaking news that proves we are living in the end times. Yep. How about this one? Leo Hohmann's Substack. Shock gloves for shock troops. You ever heard of electric shock gloves? They may soon be used against anyone resisting Trump's ICE agents. And they do what you think they do. A proposed $20 million Homeland Security purchase would equip ICE agents with electric shock gloves, already used by some law enforcement and prison personnel to force compliance from resisting subjects. So it's like the old Vulcan death grip. Remember that from Star Trek? Where Spock would grab you on the shoulder and you would instantly just collapse. Except this is actually issuing some sort of 380 volt shock. Department of Homeland Security plans to buy thousands of the gloves capable of zapping suspects with painful 380 volt shocks in a no-bid contract worth up to $20 million, according to federal government purchasing records. So they've already done it, I guess. So that's a great idea. Let's equip ICE agents and I assume other agents. What? IRS agents? Are they going to have them too? Who all is going to get the shock gloves with 380 volts? Could you imagine just, leaving them turned on and then just shaking hands with each other? Now, that would be funny. We'll be seeing some funny video clips of some of this stuff happening, I'm sure. But it doesn't sound too fun, actually. I'm not in favor of the shock gloves, but I do think it's kind of a sign of the times, isn't it? More cases reported of police using flock cameras to spy, stalk, and track innocent people. Flock, meanwhile, has tried to get its AI spy cameras into Uber, Lyft, and various commercial delivery vehicles. It seems like whatever Flock's doing, even with all the bad press they're getting, they're just doubling down, tripling down. Because they're not the only ones doing it. I mean, they're one company that is doing it. It's one of probably the newer companies. Axon and some of these others have been at it even longer. But yeah, they're trying to get flock cameras installed, I guess, on Uber and Lyft cars. Trying to see how that would work exactly. Yeah, it was reported that Flock was working on a deal to place its AI-powered spy cameras in Uber and Lyft rideshare vehicles and delivery vehicles, turning them into rolling spy cams everywhere they go. A leaked document shows that Flock Safety, company behind the highly controversial network of automatic license plate readers across the U.S., was planning to convert 350,000 Uber, Lyft, and delivery cars into a sort of mobile extension of its surveillance system. Yeah, I have an idea. Let's just put a camera on every car out there. That's what they're trying to do. This is a follow-up to one from a few weeks ago. The low water levels in the Danube are revealing more than just sunken ships. We mentioned that a couple weeks ago. Bodies of Nazi soldiers have now been found on the ships or near the ships. You may have seen this report months ago about skeleton of Nazi warships that can be seen now in Europe's Danube River being at its historic low. And this is one here where, the water has dropped down so low because of the drought. Hulks of dozens of World War II German battleships are emerging into view. This is in the Danube River. Danube River's low water levels reveal remains of World War II soldiers and a motorcycle. So this is a motorcycle that they've discovered. That's what they look like in action. The bodies of 2 World War German soldiers have been found in Budapest's Danube River due to record low water levels after an intense drought. Found alongside their remains were their identification tags of the two soldiers, a largely intact German Army Wehrmacht motorcycle, seen right here in action, a wedding ring, and a Kuban shield, a combat badge of the Wehrmacht. The German War Graves Commission said. Not sure if the German War Graves Commission is going to release photos of the two Nazi soldiers, which, I understand, but they've shared photos of the Nazi motorcycle, which is right here, which, not too bad a shape, actually. I wonder if that's the same tires, the original tires. The wreckage with the bodies underneath it was reportedly discovered on the 2nd of August when a passerby reported part of the motorcycle protruding from the rocks on the riverbank. The identification tags of the soldiers are remarkably well preserved due to the mixture of harbor sludge and oil found on the riverbed. A German nonprofit organization that searches, recovers, and buries the war dead on behalf of the German government. Yes, even Nazi soldiers deserve a burial. The commission said the process may be a lengthy one. It said it had begun the investigation to find out the identities of the two soldiers. I thought they said they had name tags. And that anyone who is still missing a relative can search for their names in its database. Would take time, however, to determine who they were, as the commission will need to ascertain whether the identity tags in Kuban shield actually belong to the two soldiers found. Yeah, I remember I also said at that time when we talked about the ships that they also found mammoth bones on the parched bed of the Danube. Weird. So now they found two Nazi soldiers, according to this. Okay, and then there's this one. Pennsylvania boy reels in a piranha while fishing with dad in Pennsylvania. He found a piranha in a lake. How does that happen? You know what I almost never associate with Pennsylvania? Sound elections and, well, piranhas. And yet, when 8-year-old Seamus Coffey and his dad Michael went fishing at Ridley Park Lake, they caught a piranha. Wow. He thought it was a bass at first because we usually catch little catfish, Michael Coffey said. So he's reeling it, and then when we saw it, what did I say? I said, slow down, dude, you might lose it. This looks like something we haven't caught before, like a big bluegill or something. I'm reeling it in, and I'm thinking it's a bass, Seamus said, the kid said. He got it on the ground and was like, it's a bluegill. I don't know what this is. And he said, it's a piranha. When asked how he knew it was a piranha, the kid said, because I watch YouTube. So there you go. YouTube is the great educator of our world today. Sure enough, it was a red-bellied piranha. See, and you thought YouTube was just another idiot box. Yeah, this kid is a smart kid. Officials with Pennsylvania's Fish and Boat Commission said it was likely someone's pet until things didn't go so well at home. It was also explained that the person likely believed they were doing the right thing by placing the piranha in the lake. Some of our folks have determined that this certainly is a species of piranha. Mike Parker with the Fish and Boat Commission said, and that person no longer wanted their pet and then unlawfully introduced it into the waterway. Ultimately, the piranha was killed to protect the other wildlife in the lake, and the intruding fish was fed to a snapping turtle. Ah, the circle of life. So a snapping turtle got to eat the little piranha. But that is completely nuts. So they're finding piranhas in Pennsylvania now. And I don't think Miss Emily's here tonight, but this story's for her. Australian restaurant hires dogs to chase thieving seagulls away from diners. Because we know seagulls like to eat French fries right off your plate, apparently. After a spate of thefts carried out by hungry seagulls, the Sydney Opera Bar has come up with a genius solution, hiring dogs to chase those thieving rats with wings. Thieving rats with wings. Restaurant hired dog trainer James Webb to develop a training program to turn farm dogs, traditionally used as sheepdogs, into seagull chasing dogs. So this, again, if Emily's here, she has a new branch here for her business. She's a dog trainer, so she can now train her dog to chase away seagulls. To combat seagulls steal food from diners, Sydney's Opera Bar has sought a creative approach. I'm going to mute it just because of the music, but you can see what happens here. The dog's having fun chasing away the birds. The dogs get the fun experience of chasing the birds while the diners get dinner and a show. It's a win-win. Nice. Again, a little doom break. Oh yeah, we got to watch this one. The Atlanta Hawks got a viral bird call kid to announce their upcoming schedule, and it's the best thing ever. Yeah, we got to watch this. This is pretty good. The legendary Samuel Henderson has returned. I didn't know he was legendary. The kid who can do perfect bird calls was called upon by NBA's Atlanta Hawks to help announce their schedule for the next season, and he did not disappoint. Yeah, so he goes from one bird to another bird to another bird, but it's not necessarily a direct representative. The bird that he does is not a direct representative of the team, but it is a direct representative of the state or place the team is from. Like there's, one of them is based in Toronto, so he does a Canadian bird, stuff like that. So anyway, let's watch this.
Hi, my name's Samuel Henderson, and I do bird calls. The Hawks' schedule just dropped today, so I'm going to do their opponents as birds. The rock pigeon. Bald eagle. The herring gull. American crow. The Canada goose. The American flamingo. The common loon. The American white pelican. The northern cardinal. And next, the king penguin. Well, thanks for watching. Go Hawks!
Wow. That was some good bird calls right there. I mean, that was really well done. 10 out of 10. No notes. I'm not a bird expert myself, but I think he nailed every single call. We first covered Samuel's amazing skill in 2024, but he went viral again last month for this video. Okay, this is the earlier one, I guess. Oh, this is another. Bro makes bird calls so accurate, it barely sounds human. Actually insane. Yes, this is another video embedded here. Pretty funny. But yeah, Atlanta Hawks fan too. Yeah, that's a crazy one. So there was your doom break for tonight. Trump vaccine order takes aim at states that limit exemptions and more. Yeah, did you guys know about this? Trump did another executive order recently about vaccines and the vaccine schedule, how many vaccines they give little kids. Trump vaccine order takes aim at states that limit exemptions, a largely overlooked part of the executive order Donald Trump issued this week, scaling back the schedule for childhood vaccines. You know, Trump's doing a lot of bad stuff right now, but this is something at least that you could say would never have happened with a Democrat person in there, I'm pretty sure. Scaling back the number of vaccines that kids are supposed to take, right? So he did have an executive order about this, but again, some states are just going to choose to ignore it, unfortunately. Scaling back the schedule for childhood vaccines threatens legal action against the 4 states that don't allow personal or religious exemptions to school vaccine requirements. Those states are California, Connecticut, Maine, and New York. The bluest of the blue are among the states with the highest immunization rates. And it says all 50 states in the District of Columbia require students to have certain vaccines before attending public school. All allow exemptions for children who cannot be vaxxed for medical reasons. 46 states plus the District of Columbia also allow exemptions for religious and or personal beliefs. Trump's order that he signed on Monday says the Attorney General will take legal action against states that do not provide religious and medical exemptions from childhood and adolescent immunization requirements. But what was interesting, I thought, was right here. Trump wants fewer childhood vaccines. California says nothing is changing here. California is not changing its childhood vaccination requirements or its requirement to have health insurers cover the inoculations after Trump's executive order that calls for reducing the number of vaccines U.S. children receive. State health officials say the executive order signed last week calls for scaling back the number of routine childhood vaccinations, splitting the MMR vaccine into 3 shots, given at separate visits, a vaccine formulation that does not exist. Well, they can sell more vaccines that way. You'd think they would. And threatens legal action against states like California that do not allow religious or personal belief exemptions. But California is not changing its vaccine recommendations or requirements for school children, and health insurers in the state must continue covering the same vaccines as before the federal government action. So there you go. I mean, it's not really that surprising, I guess. California says, we don't care. And we're just going to do what we want to do. Yeah, I hope he doesn't get the bird flu. The kid. Yeah, that's funny. We're running along again tonight, so I'm going to skip the read of Revelation1823.net, but we will certainly do that this coming week. Let's do these last couple things, and we will call it a night. Climate and economy. It's quite the news headlines here on the state of the economy, the state of the climate. It says it's likely 2026 will be the hottest year on record. We are likely to see something quite dramatic in the next year or so. Yeah, that's on Japan Times. But yeah, that's something that Dane's been talking about for a long time. I mean, as far as this year goes. Today's water cooler conversation. Hey, did you know it's the hottest August 12th globally on record since 1940? And likely the hottest August 12th in the last 120,000 years? I don't know how they know that. Atlantic Ocean can handle more warming than expected with one big catch. Under the faster warming scenario, however, the AMOC collapsed at around plus 2 degrees C. Yeah, that's the current. Wow. We breached it very briefly in November 2023, and we'll breach it for a sustained period with this El Nino. Wow. Yeah, that's another thing that's coming up this year, I guess. So yeah, lots of records being set. Historic heat everywhere. Of course, last week or 2 weeks ago, we showed the collapse of the massive iceberg in Greenland, which was just incredible. Now we've got floods and fires and just disaster after disaster. Of course, we started the show tonight with reporting on the earthquakes, and that's, to some degree also can be further fueled by heat. Again, it's called thermal expansion, something that happens deep down in the earth, causing tectonic activity. All right, GeoWatch for this week. Geoengineering Watch Global Alert News, August 15th, show 575. Unprecedented, dangerous territory. U.S. Northwest reckons with a summer of historic wildfires. Unprecedented floods and wildfires erupt across Japan, Europe, North America. Sweltering heat dome to bring dangerous heat and humidity to large parts of the U.S. That's right where I am at, by the way. Why are there so many earthquakes happening? It's another one of his headlines. Can any of these scenarios be considered natural catastrophes? The short answer is no. Latest installment of Global Alert News is embedded right here. Then there's some 90-second alerts, is what he calls these. Smoke-mageddon, who profits? Each one of these is a link to a 90-second alert. Smoke-mageddon, who profits? Coming crop collapse, ? Fires, incendiary nanoparticle fallout, 90-second alert. Toxic smoke apocalypse, 90-second alert. Firestorm as a weapon. U.S. military exposed, 90-second alert. So yeah, these are all available on GeoWatch. And again, make sure you're on our mailing list. Sign up is right here. And what else? His Facebook page is linked there. And I don't really ever mention it, but they have flyers available and booklets available. If you guys ever want to share really well done geoengineering information with people to wake them up to what's going on with our skies, these booklets and flyers are really, really good. Of course, he has t-shirts available as well, so that's all right here. And then here's Dane's Rumble channel as well, linked, and X accounts, X channels. So yeah, that's all available on geoengineeringwatch.org. The scheduled weather this week, well, it's coming up, August 22 to 26, looks like more heat. Northeast gets a little break. And Alaska has a slight break, maybe. But, yeah, it's going to be warm pretty much everywhere. So I had to look up the heat dome and see if they were actually calling it that. And, yeah, they are. I did a search just to see what it said about it. Powerful and dangerous heat dome is parked over the southeastern United States, delivering widespread triple-digit temperatures and extreme heat indices ranging from 100 degrees to 120 degrees. The intense high-pressure system is threatening dozens of historical records through midweek, with little broad relief expected until the weekend. So we've got a whole other week this week coming up of nothing but heat. And it's been really hot where I am. Temperatures, daytime highs are reaching the upper 90s to lower 100s across multiple states, threatening long-standing records in cities like Charlotte, Nashville, and Jacksonville. So, bingo. That's right where I am. So, yep. Very warm. And it definitely gives you a little bit more information here on this. But I wanted to see if it actually gave me any sort of a picture, and it does. This is what it came back with. This is from a local, I guess, Florida website, WFLA.com. But this is what they're calling the heat dome. Of course, this is something that they put in place artificially. It's done through the HARP system. You know, if not HARP directly, then through a system like that. Could be done with NexRad, I suppose, but it's mostly done with a HARP-related system. They put the heat dome in place, and that area is the part that heats up so much, and then you have, oftentimes, the moisture will get routed up and around the heat dome. So you've had, lately, I have family up in Indiana that have had a bunch of flooding up there. And note that this area up here in the orange has had heavy flooding in Indiana, and that is right at the upper edge of the heat dome because the moisture gets pushed up and around the heat dome. It's not allowed to fall right here where this intense heat is. It's pushed up and around. And that is what they've had parked off of the west coast of California for years. They still have one there. And they route the moisture up and around California so that California continues to stay in the drought. And they route the moisture around to other parts of the U.S. and Canada. So right now they're doing it to us. So I'm in the purple area here. So anyway, I wanted to share all of that with you guys. And I think that was all I had tonight, actually. So we should call it a night. It is running kind of late. We are running long. I knew we would, though, just because we were back from missing last week. And it's good to be back. So glad you guys made it tonight. Let's see how many folks we had. Yeah, we have quite a few people watching tonight, so that's good. I guess that's all for me. We can call it a night. If you do happen to want to help out what I'm doing, there are some options here. We have the Buy Me a Coffee option if you want to support the show. That's probably one of the easiest ways to do it, just like a one-off type of donation if you want to go that route. There's also a few other options here like Subscribe Star and then, of course, Substack. And then Substack is where you need to be if you want to access all of the links and other information that I send out as a result of tonight's show. So just drop your email in there and you can join the list. And you'll get a link. You'll get an email in your inbox that has all of the links from tonight's show. Totally free. So yeah, we'll send that out. Probably, it may be Wednesday this week. Just trying to play catch up a little bit. And then here is the Linktree. And Linktree has all of the show links that have to do with the Diamond Report. So we have the links for giving if you're so inclined. Again, no pressure, but it is there if you guys want to help what I'm doing, help me pay the bills. And then all of the other social media and different platforms that the Diamond Report is on. The 2 YouTube channels, Rumble, BitChute, Brighteon, Kick, Spotify, if you're into just listening to audio podcasts, Spotify and Apple. You'll find the show on there in the next 24 to 36 hours. And then Facebook pages, X, Telegram, Minds, Gab, MeWe, Brighteon Social, Getter, Parler, and so on and so on. So it's all right there, and would certainly appreciate a follow if you are on any of those platforms. I will try and get some clips out from the show tonight as well. And we will try and share those around as much as we can. I mean, it takes not just me doing the clips, but it takes you guys sharing them as well, if you guys don't mind. And it's a free and easy way to help what I'm doing. So love you guys, and we'll do it again next week. We are on for 9 p.m. Central on the 23rd. August 23rd will be the next show. So see you guys then. Hope you have a blessed week, and keep your family front and center, and stay close to the Lord, because we are in the end times, my friends. Love you guys. Talk to you again real soon.